It's time for another banger, ladies! I just know that Grime stole her style of music from Bratz. Yeah. If you're here, chances are you know what Bratz is. But for those of you who do not, it is a doll franchise that blew Barbie out of the water in the early 2000s. It's also likely that you've heard about people being pissed about Bratz, with a lot of people calling the dolls inappropriate. And as you're gonna learn in a couple of minutes, inappropriate is a stand-in word that I use just because I don't really want to use the words those people used because they're crazy. I am going to describe the vitriol this doll line got. Don't worry. Personally, I grew up on the periphery of the whole Bratz experience. I did not have the dolls, but to be fair, I think I only had one doll in general. I also never watched the show or the movies before doing this deep dive. At first, I even thought that maybe they never even aired in the area where I grew up and weren't dubbed, but turns out that they were. It's just they were on at very early hours of like 7 or 8 a.m. and I have never been a morning person. I was not fond of waking up early back then either. I did play with a styling doll once at my friend's house. I believe it was a Chloe. I'm saying all of this just to let you know that I don't really have this particularly strong nostalgia for the media or the dolls themselves, so I can be a little bit more impartial than someone who grew up with it and participated in the whole Bratz craze from the beginning. This deep dive is still unnecessarily thorough though. And I now have a PhD in Bratonomy. Yeah. From now on, please refer to me as Dr. Lisa. I don't make the rules. The things that I'm gonna cover in this video are the TV show created for Bratz, games, movies, except for the 2D stuff. However, I'm gonna be recreating 5 different looks from the doll collections from the early 2000s with my designer friend. It's gonna be a lot better than this, whatever this is. It's going to be more accurate, but also more lifelike, what it would actually look like in real life or whatnot. If you wanna have a say in which looks we're going to recreate, go in the description. There's gonna be a link to vote, basically. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about the controversies. When I was writing this, I did not know how to pace this conversation, so I decided to include it here. But just know, the rest of the deep dive is a bit more silly and goofy rather than, you know, a serious reflection on society. This part is gonna be a little bit heavier. So why were Bratz attacked so much to compare to so many other doll lines, including Barbie on the market? The answer is a bit strange because what I heard at the time was that Bratz were more provocative. More specifically, people were unhappy about the crop tops, the makeup, the mini skirts. But when you look at Bratz competitors, you also see makeup, miniskirts, and crop tops, so it was really strange to see how much of a dramatic difference there was in terms of treatment of those doll lines. Like for example here with Barbie from 2004, a Juicy Couture collaboration, or this 2006 Fashion Fever Barbie doll that has a miniskirt on, a crop top, and makeup. This one is not like a cute outfit, but it hits all of the points for parental outrage, right? Mattel was struggling, so they created My Scene, kind of like a ripoff of Bratz in my opinion. They created it in hopes of reaching the audience that decided to start buying Bratz. It's weird because when I looked at their images online, these dolls had even more midriff showing and there were tattoos all over it too, so I was like, this just doesn't make any sense. I mean, considering how common it is in the world to pay for publicity and for smear campaigns, I wouldn't be surprised if Mattel actually pulled some strings. They have a lot of coins, too many, just like any other corporation. However, this was definitely not the only reason. Let me just set the scene for you by reading a few lines from an article that's a bit hard to access now because it was released all the way in 2006 on Daily Mail and the page keeps glitching out. And I know Daily Mail is trash, no shit, but this is definitely a representation of what people were saying about Bratz back then. I've seen way too many other examples of it to kind of know that this is not an outlier. It just exemplifies how weird it is what those adults were saying about dolls that's supposed to represent 16 to 18-year-olds, you know? So this one says, oversexed and over here. The tardy Bratz doll. Last month, my daughter turned 4 and requested a Cinderella-themed birthday party. I wondered if I should be encouraging the princess rescued by her handsome knight stereotype, but decided I was being neurotic. 2 weeks later, a dozen little girls turned up at the house, most dressed in old-fashioned frilly party frocks. But one child arrived wearing a sequin crop top and a short plaid skirt that would have been inappropriate on a 12-year-old, never mind a little girl of 4. When it came to the present opening, the little girl wriggled excitedly in her seat as my daughter unwrapped her gift. For a moment, I stared at it and wondered if there was a new doll on the block called Hooker Barbie. I mean, this is just weird to say about a child too. Like, she's judging a 4-year-old for being excited. Just even the way that she phrases this is insane. Where are we as a society when manufacturers and parents think it's all right for children to dress like this? One mother asked. This doll sent out all the wrong messages, and don't underestimate the impact of these images on young boys. Because everything is always about boys, right? Like, we always have to bring them into this. It's never about anything else. Then they continue to say that the companies are trying to make kids better consumers and how appalling it is, while entirely missing the irony of adults that are constantly fighting for consumerism, complaining about corporations trying to get more profit. It's very interesting. But don't worry, we go back to blaming young girls for everything, including boys and men assaulting them just mere seconds later. Child psychologists see a direct causal link between this premature sexualization and the rise in underage. Little girls think they're just being fashionable, but older people around them, especially adolescent boys, pick up those sexual messages and act on them. If a 12-year-old girl is wearing the clothes and makeup of a 17-year-old, we shouldn't be surprised when she's treated like one. Never mind just how insane this is, you're still supposed to treat 17-year-olds well. Even that is just already crazy. And while no one is saying that little girls should be denied the chance to play dress-up, there is a world of difference between harmless roleplay and Lolita precocity. And this is where I'm gonna have to jump in. Not just with observations of clear culture here that's so gross, but with a conversation that is very difficult to discuss because of its complexity. The sexualization of young girls and how it actually plays out. I'm gonna be using myself as an example because, as for most people, this topic is quite personal to me. First of all, I need you to understand that I got catcalled the most from age 9 to 15. Yeah. I went to a religious school in the middle of Siberia that was called an Orthodox gymnasium for girls. No boys in the school. We had mandatory uniforms. All of us would go to the tailor before the year would start so we could get measured and we would be given the right size of the uniforms. And at the age of 10, I was told that I am not allowed to wear the same uniform as everybody else. I have to get a skirt of a different cut, and I especially have to get a different cut of a vest. Is there a reason for it? Yeah, they said my body was too provocative. This was a uniform that was allowed for everyone. It was modest by their standards, so this was strange. At the age of 10, just like at most ages of my life, I was not particularly concerned with anything sexual. I've always found the topic quite dull, but when I was a kid, it was a source of constant anxiety. Not because I thought of it, but because my life had to constantly be interrupted by adults to let me know that someone is aroused or might gonna be aroused soon. And somehow it was always fucking treated as if it was my responsibility to stop it. Who exactly was I supposed to not arouse at 10 years old? Boys in my class? There weren't any. There were priests though. Is that who you're talking about? Is that what you're saying? Shouldn't you ban any adult who's aroused by a child's existence to never be allowed around them? I was catcalled a lot when I was a literal child, as I said before. And I wasn't a child that dressed provocatively. I did not have money, so all the clothes that I did have were very practical. Then I noticed that I would get reprimanded when other girls wouldn't. So I started to think, what the fuck was the difference? What is the difference? Why am I being constantly scolded? Why am I constantly sexualized by adults? Even when they say they're trying to protect me, they are the ones who constantly make me aware of sex, and not because I'm doing anything different than other kids, but because of my body shape. I was not looking like a woman, mind you. I looked like a kid. Even though I technically had a big difference between the measurements of my waist and my hips, I still looked like a kid and was a kid. And it wasn't due to me being dressed a certain way. It wasn't because of me being provocative in my behavior, because I couldn't care less about sex the way that my peers were interested in learning about it. You know, I'm still resentful of people stealing so much of my childhood by making me always anxious that someone is sexualizing me right this fucking second. Just having a body was always treated like asking for it. Anyone who treats kids like this, instead of dismantling societal obsession with making anything a girl does sexual, are assholes. And just in case you were wondering, why did they target Bratz then? All of the dolls on the market are girls or women, and they were all wearing a bunch of different clothes. That's where race comes into play, at least in my opinion. Here, I'm gonna cover a bit of visual art history and its relation to all of this and media consumption nowadays. We'll be touching on topics like colonialism and adjacent things, so you can skip here if you don't want to listen to this. The characteristics that got me sexualized as a little kid, like big lips, almond-shaped eyes, white hips, are all attributes that are more common and oftentimes more amplified in girls of color. So simply existing just like these Bratz already gets you in trouble, with people thinking that you altered your lips in some way to get more attention to them because they're just big and your lips just too inviting. And your eyes are always bedroom eyes. And on top of all of that, girls of color have to deal with another thing here that adds to the sexualization and makes it a bit of a different experience than mine. And that is Orientalism. There is this whole gross, weird, slimy thing about people, especially in terms of perception from the global North people of the global South people. And that is this idea that people from cultures that were referred to as the Orient had women that are more sexual. One of the examples of that type of bullshit is this painting from a 19th century fucker named Gauguin. This is called Spirit of the Dead Watching, and it was painted in 1892. This painting is oftentimes discussed in art history classes. It is a perfect example of primitivism, a style of painting that is a whole other can of worms, as you can imagine with a name like that. Gauguin and many other artists of the time were taking inspiration, in my opinion, they were stealing from aesthetics of many European colonies. In this case, it was mainly taken from the Tahitian people, and it was named primitivism. So they steal first and then they call it primitive. It's great. Much of the Orientalist bullshit of Western men seeing Eastern women can be summed up by tired, contemporary, civilized man discovers the primitive, innocent savage. Ugh. If you look at this painting, it clearly depicts someone lying down on a bed. The woman in this painting is clearly sexualized. And the worst part of it all is that this is not a woman. This is a 13-year-old girl who Gauguin married. He said that he got inspired to paint this work when arrived home late and saw her lying in fear. Immobile, naked, lying face downward flat on the bed with the eyes inordinately large with fear. Might she not, with my frightened face, take me for one of the demons and specters, one of the Tupapaus, with which the legends of her people's sleepless nights are filled. He invaded her land, ripped her childhood away, assaulted her, gave her a venereal disease, and he still doesn't see that he is the demon. No one accidentally took you for one. You are it, buddy. There's a lot more to be criticized about this painting in particular, but it's so much that I have to stop myself and only focus on what is important for the point I'm making here. So I'm gonna focus on this particular quote from Gauguin's notebook that he was preparing to send to his 16-year-old daughter, which is another layer of gross. A quote about him trying to write a description for this painting. First and foremost, he's married to her mother. She's his daughter. He married a child in a foreign land, and now he's sending her a notebook with a sketch and a painting of a naked girl, a 13-year-old girl that he's yeah. In this rather daring position, quite naked on a bed, what might a young Kanaka girl be doing? Preparing for love? This is indeed in her character. But it is indecent, and I do not want that. Sleeping after the act of love? But that is still indecent. The only possible thing is fear. This Genèse is written for those who always have to know the whys and wherefores. How dare we? How dare we want meaning in art? Otherwise, the picture is simply a study of a Polynesian nude. What is important here is this particular part where he says that this is in her character. The projection of this creepy man's lust on a child is disturbing and deeply, deeply rooted in not only in misogyny but colonialism as well, and the warping effect of the male gaze and his delusions. He deludes himself into thinking that this is her character to be prepared for love whenever a gross ass 44-year-old plagued fucker enters a room. This is so Lolita. He is Humbert, who lives in this delusion and torments people based on what he has imagined for himself. This painting is an ode, a pinnacle of visual representation of misogyny and Orientalism. And the reason why I'm even bringing this up is to explain the clear influence race had in the perception of Bratz by the public. What's the difference between Bratz wearing this and Barbie wearing that? This and that. This and that. Why are so many people so upset with Bratz's big lips and almond-shaped eyes? They look like girls who just have big lips and almond-shaped eyes. What's the big deal here? Why do they see these characteristics and automatically say that they are sexual? Just because there's racial diversity here. People who they are conditioned to think are more indecent or sexual than they are. There's like not a single kiss in the entirety of Bratz franchise. I think there's one between two parents of the girls. Barbie has multiple, and I was expecting that Bratz would have a lot more inappropriate stuff because why did they get so much fucking backlash for just existing? Many of the Pixar movies and a lot of old school American cartoons include kisses between boys and girls that are of a weirdly young age. Why do they see Bratz and their ethnic diversity and equate it to sex and inappropriate things immediately? In a world where passport bros and assholes ordering Slavic or Asian wife from war or strained international relationships torn countries is still a thing, do you really think that Orientalism had nothing to do with this? There's nothing wrong with questioning what's appropriate for kids and what isn't, but the projection of adult fantasies on children needs to be addressed with the adults. And more than that, it's important to address why we think that creating the mentality of children bearing the cross of constantly being vigilant of who is aroused and when is normal. Safety is extremely important. But I've never seen anyone reprimand these parents who slut shame the dolls that are clearly supposed to be underage girls, like 16 to 18-year-old. Yeah, they're 16 to 18, but they're still underage. And even if they weren't underage, just the amount of filth that comes out of their mouth when they see somebody wearing something that they don't seem appropriate is insane. This is why it's so baffling to constantly see this bashing of dolls and their presumed characters because of their outfits and looks in general. How do people still not understand that you're not gonna raise respectful or respected people if you assign moral value to looks or clothes? You want your kids to be safe? Maybe don't teach them that it is the victim's fault when they get assaulted. This language, this slut-shaming language, just plays into the same shit. Because, you know, aside a million other reasons, this kid that you taught all these things will not even let you know if something happened to them. Because they're probably gonna feel guilt and not even know why. All in all, the language in criticisms of these dolls, in contrast to the characters' outfits and their behavior, with competitor lines that focused on white characters as the lead, not getting as much sexualization or backlash, leaves not much room for counter arguments. Like, I understand that Bratz babies are silly because it seems like they have makeup on, but calling them tart is absolutely insane. The amount of words I've learned in English that mean slut or slutty is insane, honestly, just by doing this research. The responsibility is on us as adults to keep children unburdened by this stuff. That same article from 2006 even says this: if it sounds sinister, that's because it is. To sexualize children through clothing and fashion implicitly suggests to adults that children are interested in and ready for sex. Okay, listen, once again, these people say that they are coming from one place, right? But then they throw in a curveball like this, with the language suggesting that by seeing kids in something that would be considered sexy on an adult, adults would get implicit suggestions that children are ready for sex. Why are we not more concerned that this is all it takes for a bunch of adults who supposedly would not assault a child otherwise to suddenly see kids as viable partners? Just explain that to me. You can take any kid, oil him up, and put him on a stage Magic Mike style, and I would still not think that he's hot because I'm not a lunatic. I don't know. There was also an American Psychologist Association research paper done about the sexualization of young girls and how rampant it is. And it mentions Bratz. It's a long-ass study that I read to mention it because so many people reference it as this example that Bratz have a bad influence on children. First and foremost, it does not say that it has bad influence on children. It just suggests that this is a pattern or whatever. It does not actually have any evidence or any research done into Bratz specifically. Also, this study covers a lot of things, and I don't want to discredit the work done there because they have done a lot of interesting research there. But I do want to question equating Bratz being marketed to 6 to 12-year-olds to some companies selling underwear or shirts with phrases like eye candy and wink wink. The dolls were always aspirational, as both with Bratz and Barbie, and many other dolls are characters that are usually 16 and up. An 8-year-old buying a Barbie in a wedding dress is not gonna go and get legally wed next day. There is an understanding that Barbie is an adult and there is different things that she can do that a child cannot. Same with Bratz. They're 16 to 18 years old. It's not the same as selling clothes that those 8 to 12-year-old girls are supposed to wear themselves. So that clothing is definitely strange. But Bratz wearing a miniskirt is not the same thing. This is not a cut and dry conversation, but to me, as someone who doesn't think about how sexy something is and cares about fashion only from a visual arts perspective, having all of these insane restrictions of what makes you morally bad or seem like you're looking for sexual attention is burdensome. And unfortunately, this gross phenomenon is not new, as you can tell with Gauguin's work. No one prohibited him from displaying that work. No one said, why is there a 13-year-old in your painting? Because, she's a Tahitian girl. It's in her character. Any of us who had experiences with adults constantly commenting on our bodies know that we all wish we could have been guarded from those dangerous gazers. Instead of constantly being reminded of a sexual world we were not even ready to talk about. Just because I liked my mom's high heels when I was 5 and I tried them on does not mean that it was okay to sexualize me or reprimand me for not acting my age. Okay, so now that the difficult conversation is over, let's have some fun with this deep dive Bratz pack. This section, as per usual, will deal with visual elements of the show, such as animation style and director choices, as well as big decisions in other departments that affect the overall feel of the show. Usually it's sound design, voice acting, music, logos, fonts, that kind of stuff. So let's start with the animation of the show. Bratz has been criticized a lot for its animation style and quality, and I believe I have said something myself before in one of my Winks videos, but I want to say right now, I take it back. I do. To be honest, the animation in Bratz is very inconsistent. There are moments that are definitely well done, especially for the dolls came to life type of style, and especially considering that this show was made on very tight budget and tight timelines. I'm not gonna use these things to excuse the quality, mostly because the company knew what they were doing when they gave these restrictions to the animation crew, but I still want to give animators some credit for specifically things like facial expressions, body language, and especially physical humor.
No. Sure. I'm connected.
As I've said, the quality is inconsistent, so sometimes you get moments that were written to be funny that land really well, like some of Tweevil gags, the girls' extreme reactions to things,
I am so thinking what you're thinking.
or moments like this one where Dylan loses his backpack.
A man of irresistible cool like the Deal Master.
The way that they animated Dylan in that moment is pure gold. And I will always talk about small physical comedy like this, because even though it's such a tiny thing, it is extremely important in animated projects to create a constant uplifted mood. However, there are some moments that were definitely not planned. They are more noticeable in episodes or scenes that have awkward animation to line delivery relationship. These moments are pure camp, by the way, because they are so bad, so sincerely bad. It's good. It's iconic, actually. One of the famous examples of that is when Chloe's walking down the street in London and she loses her shoe and she just continues on walking until Cameron comes by on his motorcycle and gives her the shoe back.
Hi.
Hi.
Missing something?
My shoe. You found it.
This is pure gold. I gotta say that Bratz is a lot more self-aware than a lot of people think in terms of their jokes. And of course, in terms of art direction, visual jokes. Because I've noticed a lot of great direction in combination with great voice acting and audio editing that was definitely intentional, definitely funny as hell.
Okay, I'm impressed. What are we waiting for?
I think it's a little bit comical how Bratz's hair is a lot more detailed than anything else in the show. I always assume that it's because this show was going for a very doll-like look. They're making these movies and a show to sell the dolls and to create more of a connection to the dolls and their personalities. Bratz animators were right to just literally use 3D animation to create the characters the way that they are in real life, aka dolls. The director of the show and movies, Muchi Facet, has revealed in this Bratz podcast called Bratz Line in episode 37 that the execs of the Bratz brand really wanted the hair to look really good, like a Pantene commercial. So it makes a lot of sense that the hair looks like that. And I think it's a good idea for them to pay attention to it, to be honest, because I remember that as a little kid, I was enamored with dolls that had long luscious hair. Maybe not even long as much as I just really liked when it looked good. I do think that the movement of the hair is a little bit too pronounced in some moments.
Yasmin must be Eaton's crush.
With Chloe being the one who got a lot of over-the-top hair movement whenever she moved her head, or even not moved her head. Her hair would just move on its own. Her hair was basically breaking the laws of physics, and like, that's kind of a slight. So.
Oh, please. How much more hardcore evidence do we need?
Since we're talking about Muchi Facet, we should talk about Berdine and the Tweevils.
I want a big daddy!
The main characters that were specifically created for the show and the movies, obviously. It's a bit unclear as to who was the one who actually came up with the idea. It feels like it's a little bit of a team effort. I know that Muchi has drawn the characters, finalized them, but I think that he said that someone else actually suggested the idea, and it was one of the people who was the producer in the beginning of the process, and I believe that they were not really part of the show later on. So first and foremost, it turns out that the owner of MGA does not like Berdine. He even told the director that they should have less bird wine. This is what he calls Berdine, which is such a strange request to make. Right away, you know that the guy is not a writer. You know that he does not know anything about creating stories, because how the hell else are they supposed to create conflict in the story? You need the catalyst in literally every episode, regardless of it being a show that is mostly self-contained 2 episodes. Did he want them to use the existing Bratz dolls for the main 4 to have beef with? Because it's such a terrible idea. Most kids wouldn't want dolls that were the antagonists. It is, however, strange that they haven't created the Tweevils or Berdine nowadays to sell as like a collector's kind of doll, like a limited edition kind of thing, just because I understand that back then it would have probably not been that profitable considering that children were buying it, but now that the brand have seemingly transitioned into appealing to an older demographic, to people who are more nostalgic for the dolls than anything else, it seems a little bit strange that they wouldn't want to cash in on that. Obviously people would buy them now because they are iconic characters. Back in like 2005, I understand why they wouldn't release them. We've all heard stories stories like that story of Tom Felton, for example, being constantly harassed by children until they grew up and realized that like he's an actor, not Draco. And also a lot of them all of a sudden became fans of Draco. And that's kind of a similar vibe going on here, so I totally get why they didn't make it back then. But now, don't get it. We will talk about the writing of these characters in a different section, but when it comes to their place within the franchise, I think that they fit very well. There was a need for antagonists, and having 3 characters that all remind you of Barbie is absolutely fantastic. If you don't know, Bratz and Barbie have problems with each other, but this is a topic that's been widely discussed, so I'm not gonna get into it. All you need to know is that they don't like each other. All 3 characters were created in a matching style to the Bratz girls, while having some differences that made them more interesting and visually stand out. And I think that the creators of the show did a really good job coming up with them, because it does feel like they would be a part of the Bratz world. These 3 became such an integral part of this universe that it feels really weird when they are not featured at all. It feels a little bit empty, so I think that they did a good job if that's how you feel when you watch it. It's of course a little bit silly when they're always involved in every single scenario imaginable, but at the same time, I am gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna pretend like I don't see it, because if you're doing it to keep up the vibe of the show and to provide a great experience, I'm all for it, especially this kind of experience.
Mother of Pink!
Also, I want to both complain and praise character design here, because one of the negatives in this show is how limited the amount of models is. And I specifically mean the models that were used in the animation process. They obviously have created quite a few characters using those molds, but sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. This kind of made me giggle sometimes, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's really funny when the same model, sometimes without even a hair color or an outfit change, is used to represent an entirely different character. It's especially confusing when one character is the villain and the other one is an ally to the main characters. And you're just sitting there like, wait, isn't that bitch that poisoned like 30 models in Paris? No babe, it's just a reporter with her styling purse rat, Miss Mimi.
And her styling purse rat, Miss Mimi.
This rat is so cute, bitch, I swear to God. I just love the way that she turns to the camera.
Mimi.
To give us a little bit of that mid-2000s teen drama show intro realness, you know? Like, wow, she sure is styling. There's this Aries or whatever that has the exact same model used, but she gets a hair color change and an outfit change, so it's not as confusing. You can kind of put 2 and 2 together and figure it out. This reusing of models led to the character that plays the villain in the first Genie Magic movie to play a random taxi driver in the second one without Katya's father figuring it out. Obviously that guy is not supposed to be the villain, but they just didn't even change the hair color or anything, and specifically considering this is the same storyline, it's a little funky. Another point, a point that I forgot to mention at first when I wrote the script, and then I had to go back and fix it because I can't just not talk about this. I might come back to this point to make fun of them even more, but the design of a lot of girl characters versus guy characters is really something. The Bratz dudes, aside from Ethan and Dylan and Cameron being on thin ice, all the dudes are offensively ugly. This is the guy that Prudence, one of the girls that participates in one of the episodes, whatever, she's supposed to ask him out because he's like a hottie. Everyone's like going crazy over him. This is the guy we're talking about.
Girlfriend, stop!
Get back in the car!
You can't be serious. And this is a guy from school that everyone was madly in love with. He was literally 60 timing everyone. Yeah. And a bonus, an actor that Jade was really into and that obviously everyone was into because he was an actor or whatever.
Sure. I'm connected.
What is going on? I guess it's realistic in a way, but still. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm supposed to believe that this guy can do whatever he wants, but Dylan is like, not getting girls or something. I just don't get it. I don't. It is really good though that all of the models that do show up are really interesting, sometimes weird.
I'm Dan, your friendly neighborhood health spa attendant.
And I think that all of them are kind of great. I have to put this point into both a positive and a negative, because definitely reusing of the models was done because of the lack of resources and time, but at the same time, it's just a little bit iconic and funny. Very confusing for kids to watch, I would assume. Another thing is that I like the body languages that they have created for each model. Bratz are walking with that styling sway and confidence. That jock dude from school moves like a bunch of balloons tied together with a chapstick head on top. The Tweevils have a little wiggle to them.
Like picking up a total hump bucket. Duh! And you call us dodos?
A bit of like wobbly mannerisms that you can only see in toddlers and 15-year-old boys from a basketball or hockey team in your high school that for some reason cannot stand still when they're talking to their friends, as if they're being gently pulled into a myriad of different directions. The PE coach or Berdine's assistant or the TSA agent model is also very funny in terms of how it moves.
You heard me! You're all a bunch of failures. Fail, fail, fail!
It looks like it's her torso that's propelling her forward. Berdine herself has a very interesting flavor to her physical comedy. And the Chachi model is so funny too.
Now who's dogfish?
He literally jumps up and turns 180 degrees when he's running away. Also, the facial expressions are really great in this show, but not consistently great. In some episodes or scenes, you get impeccable animation choices that are so expressive.
I want a big daddy.
This is mostly why Bratz is so highly memeable online. They just really give you the expression they commit.
Ew!
But in some episodes or scenes, the animation is suddenly a lot stiffer and doesn't really offer nearly as much in terms of communication of emotions. Sometimes it doesn't even keep up with the words being said. There are also some instances where I think the main team outsourced the work. I'm assuming so based on some major animation changes in movies like Pampered Pets, which might have been an in-house change since Desert Jewels also kind of looked the same, or in an episode of Bratz that's not on the main Bratz channel for some reason, where Yasmin needs to do community service because of Tweevils. The animation looks quite different, mostly because of the body language changes. The last thing on models and character animation. There are a lot of mistakes, a lot of random outfit changes, like in one shot, Chloe is wearing one outfit and then in the other she wears a different one, and then in the next shot she's back to the first outfit. It's a lot. As per director, a lot of the mistakes, like for example the outfits that usually belong to one character appearing on another one, is just mistakes, not intentional stuff. The locations, honestly, I wouldn't say that all locations are bad, but most are very bland. The two locations that actually look really good is Berdine's office and Bratz's office. I think Chloe's room is also cute. Same with the smoothie bar. But all the clubs, concert halls, and other locations are quite bland. Still, I think that a lot of the locations that we get to see more than once are pretty good. I also love the dingy, dilapidated locations for the basements and random rooms where characters are kept captive because they really go for the textures in it. And also the scenes that happen in those locations are honestly quite iconic.
Something wrong, old girl.
And funny as hell. Like the Bratz office before the renovation, that weird factory place that Chachi used to keep the pets in, the room in Paris where Nicole fights Chloe, and ages Chloe and Jade's bones. It's just funny how drastically run down these locations are to compare to other locations in the show. It's so dramatic. I love it. Of course, details are missing. A lot of spaces don't feel lived in, but it's not surprising once again because rendering that many objects is impossible on a tight schedule. A lot of these limitations were masked by some interesting directorial choices. For example, a scene of Kirsty in Paris. I think it's Kirsty. That scene is made a lot more interesting by first-person perspective, shot of her dangling on the door and being pushed into the toilet bowl with a quick, really well-timed shot of her drying off her butt.
What is up with that? Anyway, this creepy person was like so mean. He pushed me into the toilet, so I had to dry myself off before I went downstairs.
This is more of an editing timing detail that makes a lot of scenes funnier. Editing in the show, just like most other things, is not consistent. Most of the time it's great and it adds a lot to the comedic effect. But then there are moments where the editors need to show that a lot of time has passed and they only have one short animation sequence, like for example with the girls working out, and instead of animating anything else, they just reuse the same animation and they change the saturation, brightness, hue of the shot and just play it again. Like, I did not edit this. This is genuinely funny in the same way as TikToks of people who don't really do or say anything but use like 300 different types of effects. It's funny. Do you know what I mean? There's also some awkward pauses, but watching it now, I can't help but enjoy those awkward shots because it's like pure camp. And I'm using pure camp as an art term. This is genuine. And it misses the mark of what the creators wanted. But they did shoot their shot earnestly. So in hindsight, these moments work perfectly, as it's so awkward and kind of iconic. It's the reason why that Chloe and Cameron scene is so funny. If you don't get camp as a concept and you want it explained properly as term used in fine art circles, you can go watch the podcast episode I made about it. I explained it based on the original essay about it, and it's gonna be like in the cards or in the description or something. A couple more examples of funny editing choices, not necessarily bad choices, but definitely funny ones. There are definitely some scenes. Some of them are cutaway scenes that are done in a very creative way. Like this scene of the girls gossiping about Nigel.
That's right. I read that his family lost their entire fortune. And his mother ran off with the groundskeeper. Ooh, and his father joined a cult.
Or Dylan saying that he'll be Anna's dessert.
I'll be her dessert.
Dylan.
There is also another element of the show that helps these directing choices, and that is sound. First of all, Bratz has a few sounds that they use for actions in the show that are repeated and definitely used in that way in a comedic sense. It's kind of like 2020 vlog style editing, Joanna Cedia style, or whomever from 2020, honestly. That's kind of been used in a show in 2005, which is interesting. This sound shows up in different types of situations and honestly will always be associated with Bratz in my mind. It works really well for these characters, especially adding to the comedic effect in some scenes like here with Chachi, Sasha fighting Nicole. There's also a synth sound that plays every time someone is disappointed or annoyed.
I command you. Hush.
Whenever Kirsty and Casey are bumping their butts together.
Yeah.
And I'm a sucker for signature sound effects. I am.
Bye.
Especially in comedies. However, the stars of the show are the actors, because the voice acting in Bratz does a lot for it. The comedic timing, the weird voices, signature intonations, and most of all, just the level of commitment to the emotions portrayed is out of this world. Just the iconic ew meme that we all know and love. Became iconic because the scream is so good. Olivia Hack felt it in her bones. Olivia is the actress that plays Chloe. There are a few more screams similar to this one that are also great.
The lady was daydreaming about me.
Set up camp.
Some of the voice acting is not as great in season 2 to compare to season 1, but I would still say that there's plenty of great moments.
Well, hello there. I'm Liam. Don't worry, I have this effect on girls all the time. Liam?
I gotta mention a few more great moments when it comes to voice acting.
With its coy symbol and sassy name, Seaborgium really struts its stuff with 106 electrons. These are just a few of the elements that make our world so enchanting.
Hey, good idea! How do we do it?
Good idea. How do we do it? Since we're talking about sound, we have to talk about the music. And I don't want to hear shit about it, okay? Bratz music is genuinely top tier. And since I've never seen the shows or the movies growing up, I don't really have the nostalgia for them. And they genuinely have some hits, okay? I watched Curtis Connor's video on Barbie versus Bratz, and he said that Fashion Pixie's Bratz movie had generic pop music. Excuse me? It's pop rock, R&B pop, and like it's so good. Early 2000s R&B pop, it's elite. Do you remember Shakira's and Beyonce's Beautiful Liar? Yeah. There is some Orientalist bullshit going on in there, but the music slaps. Nelly Furtado? Are you kidding me? Timbaland? Come on now. Remember 4 Minutes by Madonna and Justin Timberlake? That song was such a hot commodity. Like, I remember I had it on my phone, and whoever also had it on their phones would refuse to share it through Bluetooth or infrared ports. Yes, I had an infrared port, okay? Because I was always using my parents' old phones until I was like 13 and I got my own, so I was behind. So yeah, I also got to have a black and white phone because I was also behind. And what about it? What about it? This Bratz music is so catchy. It's so much better than all other kid-oriented IPs out there. It's insane. Maybe it's not better than all of them, but a lot of them. If you think that early Britney, TLC, Timbaland are not good, well, first of all, I'm judging. I'm judging. Yeah. Second of all, even though Bratz were making music that was quite contemporary at the time, they did not have lyrics like those songs. These songs are all about friendship, doing your best, working hard for your dreams, being confident. I swear, based on how much shit Bratz gets every day from weirdos everywhere, I thought that these songs would be super vapid or inappropriate. And like, they're not. Yeah, there are some songs about fashion and shopping, and many parents and critics were mad about that, but honestly, it's the funniest thing to read a Western critique of a kids show and see, let me read this to you. There is not much good to say about a cartoon that targets tweens and younger, yet has its impossibly thin fashion crazy characters sporting skimpy outfits, platform heels, and too much makeup. All of them complain about shopping. What, consumerism is only a problem when fictional girls want to buy a crop top? Do those old Western men need a reminder of who came up with this game? And on which side they're happily playing? Like, what on earth? Girl, they're so hypocritical, it's insane. Anyway, the songs are really good. Bratz actually had some songs released before the show. One of the songs was, wait for it. Yeah, that Boa. Yeah, and like Howie D from Backstreet Boys, whatever. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, I do not like this song, but I do love Boa.
Can nobody tell you how you do it all?
Boa is the definition of mother. It's just the lyrics of the songs, they don't make sense, and the English is not very coherent, which leads to a lot of lyrics that are either incomprehensible or way too suggestive, which is weird for Bratz music because they never really do that. Apparently this song was an intro to a show called Cool TV, which was a stop motion 2-minute per episode show of Bratz that was a tie-in project to promote the arrival of Bratz to Japan. In any case, I thought it was a cool crossover, so I want to talk about that since I am a boa enthusiast. Now, the first movie, Bratz Rock Angels, actually came out with a soundtrack, and when I tell you it's iconic, I mean it. I, once again, didn't really have access to anything Bratz, but even I heard Bratz song So Good.
Close to the edge, ready to start, and it's so good.
I just thought it was a hit song from America. I did not know that it was a Bratz song for a good reason, because it's so good. It's just pop rock gold. It is. Yeah, it's not experimental or anything like that, like some music that I enjoy, but it doesn't have to be something crazy to be good. I was also pleasantly surprised that this song was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Original Song in a Children's/Animated Program in 2007. Yeah. And it deserved to win. People that worked on Bratz music have worked with, let me see, Britney, Kelly Clarkson, Monsta X, Girls' Generation, Kesha, Cher, Ashley Tisdale, Be Good to Me, Miley Cyrus. So, you know. Okay, so my favorite songs off of all albums. First album, Rock Angels.
Dancing on the air, it feels so good.
It's not about the money you make. It's not about the little mistakes. People don't know who I am. Nobody's girl. No boy's gonna tell me what.
Now, Genie Magic. This album and all others except for Forever Diamonds, it's not available to stream anywhere. And at first I thought that it was maybe only unavailable in Canada or regionally in some way, because I could see it, but it was grayed out. And I was like, is this Canada-phobia? Canuck-phobia? It's not. Other countries also don't have it. So the music is so good, I would unironically add it to my playlists. MGA, give us the music back on the streaming platforms. Like, what the heck? When We Are Together is such a good 2000s jam.
Everything is better, yeah, we're all together.
Rolling is so good. It's literally sick and twisted.
Never giving, no matter what comes, gonna get it done, and nothing's gonna stop me.
I was literally writing this down at 1 a.m. after having a post-cancer existential moment. And there are so many songs to name. Strap in, girl.
Never gonna give up, oh no. Never gonna give me shaking. We're making it happen, giving reaction. That's broken, I won't pretend.
Making It Happen has such a great instrumental bridge. Living It Up is so cute.
Living it up, yeah, we're gonna have fun. Living it up, yeah, living it up.
And it's definitely used quite a bit in the show. By the way, if I don't name a song, it doesn't mean that I like hate it or something. Most of them are good anyway. This is an important one. Bratz show theme song. This one is like a remix, so it's a full song. I love it. I do. It's so good. Forever Diamonds. For this album, I almost marked all songs as faves. We should do a damn party to this soundtrack. Ooh, fashion. So good, and it's a David Bowie cover. That guitar riff, bitch.
So, mister, turn the radio on. What's up? That's the greeting. We're repeating. This big world with so much opportunity. Anything you want, you can have it.
There are so many great vocalists here too. And the legend of this channel, My Attitude.
Oh, your hands on my style. On a solid ground, independent girl. You know it's your time. You got it. Something like no one else. You can tell. Let go, let yourself be free. Show how you feel it. Just having some fun, everyone. Oh.
By the way, a song about you being a diamond that shines because of your character, not about diamonds. So,
I am beautiful.
yeah, it's a cover of Christina. From Fashion Pixies, One of a Kind is That Girl. Look Closer is a vibe too. I love the percussion in it. It's quite interesting. Working Overtime, it's so good. A song about the working hellscape, but like the song is so good though, so let's dance. Just Let Go Now. A type of song that I heard in European clubs in like 2011. What was I doing in clubs in 2011? But this is better, bitch. From Girls Really Rock, I think I like Summertime Fun and It's All About Me and Everything We Do, but not a lot of songs off of this album are kind of in this list because it's a musical movie and I'm not really a fan of musicals. I don't hate them. It's just not my favorite style of music. Okay, we're done with music and sounds, I promise. Another iconic thing that I need to mention here is the nicknames, little logos that represent those nicknames, Bratz logo itself, and the Bratz slang. All of these things will be mentioned in the writing and design parts, but for different reasons. Here, I wanted to mention it because of how these things create an overall feel for the series that also ties it to the doll line. The fact that the girls have cute nicknames for each other, yeah, elaborate nicknames like Cool Cat or Pretty Princess, and like they seem silly from the outside, but I'd argue that nicknames like that are a big part of preteen culture. We all wanted a nickname, come on now. Or a different first or last name, because we had like weird obsessions with names, other people's names or character names. I was obsessed with the name Violet and Caroline. Why? I don't know. And I wanted someone, like a group of my friends, to have like a cute little nickname for me when I was like probably 8 or something. And this idea for a doll line or a series like this is really cute and very accurate to what girls that age like. Not only girls, but I'm speaking from my experience. The logos are really cute and they're also used on their shirts when they're wearing the same outfits. The way they come up with a name for their magazine, Bratz, is really cute too. They are constantly attacked by Berdine for presenting competition for her magazine, and she calls them brats. So they decided to use it while also adding a little halo on top, so there's attitude but not too much attitude. I like that the brand consistently uses Z's everywhere instead of S's at the end of plurals. It's very recognizable and unique, and also it just pissed every conservative weirdo adult in existence. What are you so pressed about? No one's gonna look at it and go, yeah, everyone writes it with an S, but I think that since Bratz wrote it, it's grammatically correct to write it this way instead. Like, kids are not stupid, man. I love their slang too. They love saying things like scorchin', styling, advising everyone to express yourself, or reminding you that they have passion for fashion. It's cute. It's iconic. It's memorable. It's following the guidebook of being a cultural icon, creating your own slang. Just like Heather said, what's your damage? And Cher said, as if. Bratz are saying express yourself and scorchin'. Love it. Also, I gotta show you something iconic that I stumbled on while working on this.
Byron's sending the Bratz on a super secret mission.
You want us to go to Paris?
But do they have what it takes to be undercover agents?
Paris, here we come!
Don't miss Bratz. Coming up next, only on 4Kids TV.
Wings ending on 4Kids with a promo for Bratz playing right after. 4Kids predicted this gargantuan sleigh that I'm delivering right now. They predicted the succession of the Unnecessarily thorough deep dives all the way back in 2005, and that's history. Read chapters 3 to 7 of Fevral Chronicles before the next class, besties. Anyway, this show and brand had a strong vision for itself. With slang, logos, character design, music produced, and physical comedy delivered, it painted a cohesive image of a fun and unique art direction. The brand's media did suffer from lack of funds and time being allotted for the production of those animations, but the people who worked in those departments created some great pieces of media that easily produces iconic memes and is a fun watch for anyone who enjoys a little bit of nostalgia or funny, innocent animation.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but there's nothing like a really good axe.
Listen, got nails on? But if they're crooked or they fall off, just mind your business. I am not about to re-glue everything again because I just did it and it might fall off again. I just want you all to accept it, okay? Kombucha, my favorite type of glass. Discussing the writing in Bratz is quite a bit different than any other show that I've covered so far. For one, this show usually has stories that are contained to one episode or sometimes 3. So it doesn't really have the same continuation as in some other shows, you know, so that's different. That's mostly why Bratz movies have such distinct topics, usually 3 within one movie. In Rock Angelz, we have the first third that deals with the Bratz opening the Bratz magazine, a second part that's about their shenanigans in London, and the third part that actually has Bratz as Rock Angelz. The entirety of the movie doesn't really have anything to do with the last part, but it's because I think that they kind of set everything up to be a little bit of a self-contained kind of situation, right? So they are narratively connected, but each part is kind of separate, so you can air the movie in 3 parts, as in 3 episodes, and it would make sense. In any case, if you see 3 episodes that technically have some kind of narrative connection, so for example, they were all on a camping trip or whatever, these 3 episodes could technically be a movie, and each movie could technically be 3 episodes. So we don't really have to talk about this big overarching storyline or progression. The characters progress within the episodes, but it doesn't really carry over that much from episode to episode. So, as per usual, we're gonna do pro-con kind of structure. Number 1, the Bratz girls are actually really great friends to each other and other girls too. One of the things that I found very compelling about this show is that the girls are very kind and supportive of one another. And friendship in general is portrayed to be an integral part of existence that is strengthened through spending time together, having common hobbies or interests. Literally in the first movie, Bratz Rock Angelz, we are shown that your priorities shouldn't switch all willy-nilly to prioritize a random dude that you meet on a trip or not on a trip in general. Chloe meets the Duke and forgets about her responsibilities, why she's even in London to begin with, what she promised to her friends and magazine partners. She later realized how weird and disrespectful that was. Reunites with her friends to hit up a pins club for a scoop. I was also pleasantly surprised by Chloe apologizing and even saying, I get if you guys don't want to have anything to do with me, because oftentimes it's treated as a given in media that people act like this. Yeah, they always say sorry, but they also always kind of assume that it's okay to ditch people that you actually know for like whomever. And I think it at least shows that she understands that she put her friends in a position where they were supposed to pick up her slack and have to go around doing stuff alone that they actually plan on doing together, especially since it's for work. We are shown once again where their priorities lie in the episode where Chloe tells a story about all of them liking the same guy and them realizing that not a single dude is worth ruining your friendship over. We also get this gem.
My boyfriend says he wants to hook up with other girls and still see me. What do I do? Signed, confused. Dump him!
I love how down they are to do things. They generally have a very supportive environment, and when we see other girls interacting with them, they always welcome them with open arms. There's an episode where Sasha gets offended that the girls were helping Fiona with prepping for a dance competition that Sasha was also participating in, and eventually the conflict is resolved when Sasha understands that her friends want to be there for her, and helping Fiona with makeup or a dress is not going to take away from them actually doing the same for her. In other cases, they just genuinely encourage people around them. It's genuinely sweet. Like Sheridan from Forever Diamond movie movie where Mandy tried to sway Bratz's opinion about her by saying that her fashion designs are not great or fashionable, and Bratz tell her that everyone has their own style and what fashion is all about is self-expression.
I wouldn't want her to be embarrassed to know. I mean, she's not really model material, if you know what I mean.
Chloe also gives Sheridan a pendant for being brave and trying to create quick designs right before going on stage instead of giving up. It's honestly really cute. Now, since we're talking about Bratz being good friends and supporting other girls, not being meanies and such, we gotta talk about the bad when it comes to adjacent themes. Ageism and fat phobia. This one is a tricky one, since a lot of shows that I talk about are from the early 2000s. I do have to mention a few nuances here and there to contextualize the show and to criticize it properly, you know, with some props given where it's due. First and foremost, Bratz, in terms of their body shape, have always been far beyond comparison to humans, with their massive heads, feet, eyes, and lips. So even though I've seen some people say that they're a bad influence in the same way as Barbie is in terms of thinness and whatever, I don't think I agree with those people, even though I do understand where they might be coming from. It's a bit of a silly take, to be honest, a bit of a lazy take. I do think that doll franchises and cartoons should diversify their characters in terms of their body types. They can diversify it within their own style. It doesn't have to be a different style to adjust to it. And it's also especially important for dolls, since a character that represents a product in real life will always be treated better, will always be represented a little bit better, and rendered better in animation, all that kind of jazz. The problem with fat phobia and ageism is not with the dolls themselves per se, as much as it's with some of the narratives in the show and movies. In a very typical 2000s fashion, we get jokes about plastic surgery, lying about age to appear younger, and fear of carbs.
Carbs!
To be fair, the carb jokes are usually presented as something that Burdine is concerned about, which makes sense since her and the Tweevils represent the resistance to change and progress, with Tweevils even telling Yasmin about their mom being the head of Women Against Change organization. Yeah. Most of the time, these jokes show how obsessed Burdine is with thinness and not portrayed as a good thing. However, there is a moment in the show that was weird as fuck. And it's a sequence from an episode where we are basically in Jade's dream because she got knocked out by a trash can.
Got it! Wanna step outside?
I love this nonsense of a show. Anyway, within that dream, Burdine takes over the world, everything is pink, yada yada yada, and then Jade does this.
Voila!
Carbs! Are you trying to make me fat?
You get the idea. Now eat up, or it's Tweevil time for you. Chop chop!
Do you know who I am? I am Burdine Maxwell of your thing magazine. Queen.
Okay.
My, temper.
Okay, wow. This scene has a lot to unpack. First and foremost, yeah, considering Jade's and Burdine's history, with Burdine firing her because of a burger.
Oh, mother of pink!
Your lunch.
Carbs!
But
Spare me your excuses, you are fired.
I understand why they would think of connecting it to here, but the issue is more with one, villainization of carbs, which is so classic for early 2000s, and honestly, we've all heard this bullshit growing up, and it affects us all and our eating habits, only for us to find out that a low carb diet is not good for most people. It doesn't even mean that you're gonna be healthy or lean, and not only that, but for some of us, cutting carbs can lead to a lot of issues. The anti-carb campaign went on for so long, and being against a whole ass group of macronutrients is insane. Like, it's completely ridiculous. Here, not only do they say that you eat a crumb of bread and you'll get fat, they actually validate Bourdain's attitude toward carbs by showing her ballooning up to a massive ball and then explode after she ate a bite of a burger. Second of all, and this is a big one, treating fatness as a punishment for creating a pink zombified dictatorship is once again atrocious. Not only does Bourdain see it as a punishment, Jade does too, which is the bad part of the messaging. As I said, you can have negative things portrayed through villains. That's fine. They're villains for a reason, but using just being in a fat body as a horrible thing is definitely gonna be damaging for literally everyone. Ageism was also another thing that was way too normal in the 2000s. This is a sign of the times, yeah. But it does not mean that I'm not gonna criticize it, because what the fuck? Bourdain is supposed to be 31, okay?
31. Whoops. Let's see. 25.
Yeah, just 31, bitch. But in one of the first episodes where she's trying online dating and later meets up with a man who turns out to be Dylan.
Hello, Slick Fox.
Pretty in pink.
That lied about his age too. She says on that website that she's 25. And like, for what? 31 is still young. So what the hell is going on? I don't get it. Then the Tweevils say that she had a facelift done, which the show kind of says that it's true, you know, it's not like something that they just came up with. We see her without makeup in the episode where Jade is trying to take a picture of her without makeup because it's like a dare from their sleepover party. And she looks like this.
My skin! It's red! Oh, mother of pink!
I'm just sitting there like, have the writers never met a 31-year-old before? Like, this is just ridiculous. Most people have some wrinkles. Some people have them even when they're kids, you know? Because they have dry skin running in their family, whatever. No one does a facelift at 31. What were they on? Again, it's one thing to have Bourdain exhibit these beliefs, because that's like her whole thing. Being judgmental, being behind the times, hating progress in society, whatever. But they have the Bratz judge her face without makeup.
Good thing looks can't kill.
Instead of taking the opportunity to be like, okay, she looks pretty similar without makeup, like most women do. There's only like a few people who do makeup online professionally, where they do like a whole change of their face and it's like a whole shtick that they do. Everyone else looks pretty much similar. Like, yeah, it's not that polished, but it looks pretty similar. Come on now. Maybe she's got under eye circles and a couple of red spots. Whatever. They could have said like, oh, I guess this dare was kind of for nothing. But no, they have to have Jade say things about her looking old. Same with an episode where they say this.
You know, I always thought we'd be together till we were old and gray. But like when we're 30?
Who is this comment for? Who is this comment for? Whenever I see shit like this in media created for girls, I just feel pissed because these vipers are goddamn everywhere, indoctrinating us to believe that we have less time on earth than men. So basically, with fat phobia, just like with ageism, by the way, they kind of undo their own messaging that was showing these obsessive behaviors that Bourdain has as antiquated ideals of beauty by showing that Bratz technically think the same. They eat carbs, but they're skinny. They don't balloon up immediately like Bourdain does, so they can make fun of her while clearly having the same mentality. They can say that Casey's vain for making her nose smaller with plastic surgeries because they are not vain with their almost non-existent noses. They can make fun of Bourdain for lying about her age, saying that she's 25 instead of 30 because they are 16, saying that they will be old when they're gonna be 30. There's nothing wrong with showing negative characteristics in villains, as I've said before, like being ageist or fat phobic, if you show that the protagonists don't participate in the same behavior, regardless of them actually being affected by the things that the villains are afraid of. Make a joke about Bourdain saying that she's 25 instead of 31, because that's ridiculous to think that that's old age, but don't have your protagonists agree and act like they're somehow more progressive or better because they're 17 or something. Like, how is that there's no logic here whatsoever. It doesn't seem like they agree most of the time until we get a scene where they're trying to take a photo of her without makeup, for example, right? You can't make fun of vanity while being the ideal that those vain people are trying to achieve and make comments about how horrible it would be to be like those people. That's like a ridiculous excuse of logic that is most commonly used by misogynists that actively build society brick by brick to condemn the action of trying to fix attributes about oneself that those same people ridicule. And all of this messaging is quite confusing and it spreads far beyond Bratz. It's important to mention here, of course, that Bratz did offer an alternative body type to Barbie and other dolls at the time, being bold enough to choose all of the defining characteristics like wider hips, smaller bust, big lips, and big almond-shaped eyes that were not popular in the early 2000s. Being super flat and thin was the go-to look. It wasn't the mid-2010s where everyone wanted to be an Instagram baddie and resorted to blackfishing to achieve that and to fit the trends. They also offered real racial diversity instead of it being an afterthought. It is impossible to watch these inconsistencies and not wonder why illogical things like that are so common in media. Honestly, even in media that is adult-oriented and claims to be a lot more advanced. Okay, so since we're on an age topic, let's cover Byron.
Written all over you.
I know it's a weird mental connection, but he has a lot of beef with Burdine, and he even called her a geriatric shrew.
Tell me you're not entering. This is a dance contest, you know, not a circus for geriatric shrews.
By the way, there's another old man in the series that calls someone else who looks a lot younger than them a hag.
What do you want, hag?
Girls just want to have fun.
Her? A hag? She looks like your daughter. What are you then? A sentient fossil?
Can we fix it? Baby, can we fix it?
God. Anyway, thank God Burdine called him an insufferable windpipe, an icon. I can't stand this creep. Great character for a show, in a way, but a horrible person. And since I am a little bitch, let's try and figure out how old Byron is supposed to be, since he's so bold to call somebody else a shrew, a geriatric one at that. Because I'm definitely sure he's more geriatric than Burdine is, that's for sure. So, Byron Powell is clearly a Simon Cowell of this universe. This show was released in 2005. Simon Cowell was born in 1959, which is crazy. So, Byron is supposed to be roughly 46 years old at the time of this series premiering. So, he is 15 years older than Burdine. And he thinks he can call her geriatric? Babe, look at the state of you.
I'm just not interested in you, not like that.
Not interested in you like that. Look at this stadium.
Anyway, Byron is a creep through and through. Aside the weird assignments he gives the girls, because this is more for the plot, whatever, I gotta mention a few things that were nuts, even for this unusual dynamic overall. First of all, that episode where Dylan is dressed as Delilah, as his cousin. She doesn't exist. He was just dressing as a girl because he wanted to hear what Fiona likes or whatever, wanted to be friends or whatnot. And Byron acts so weird with her.
Your friends do a remarkable rendition of Squealing Pigs. Tyler, has anyone ever told you you have star quality written all over you? Have you studied dance professionally?
Also, the fact that he tricked Chloe into thinking that there was a hitchhiker that was stalking her.
What? I just saw the same hitchhiker I saw an hour ago. Maybe we should pick them up. Are you out of your mind? You can't pick up hitchhikers. They could be psychopathic maniacs.
I know that it was like an association with the ghost as well, but still, before she even knew about the story that he planted again, she was definitely spooked because she thought it was just like some man. And that's already scary, especially for a fucking 16-year-old. What the hell is going on, honestly? When he finally apologizes for torturing the girls with this bullshit for the sake of content and drama for TV, he smiles like this. Gross. I know it's because he realized that there's gonna be a chase and it's gonna be good for ratings, whatever, but I still hate it. Okay, Let's do another pro. Bratz are ambitious, resourceful, and definitely a type of show that can make people more optimistic and willing to try new things, even if it's a difficult task. I definitely expected the characters to not be as independent and as interesting and well-rounded as they are because of the amount that shit said about them. I've said it before and I'm gonna say it again. There was way too much criticism for the show, to be honest. Adults really said a lot of nasty shit about a bunch of characters that were a part of a dream fulfillment show for young girls, with Bratz running their own magazine, traveling to Paris and London, having a cool car, being a rock band together, running for student president, winning prom queen, being able to do tricks on skateboards and other. Considering how Barbie is usually those parents' go-to, I thought that Bratz would be less ambitious than Barbie in her respective media. I thought that they would be a bad example of girls that don't really study. They are shown to be very conscious of their academic success, so I was quite surprised, to be honest. I know that a lot of these scenarios are not realistic, okay? Obviously. Just starting with the first moment of them getting a goddamn office in their city that's a goddamn penthouse. Yes, it's run down, but it's still a massive penthouse. That just doesn't happen. Like, I get it, but there's nothing wrong with that, to be honest, especially in a show that's literally a wish fulfillment show for girls. I personally love that. Yeah, they somehow learn how to play an instrument out of nowhere in like 2 hours.
Give me my Romeo! Oh my gosh! I got it! I did it! I finished it! I nailed it!
And became a rock band, but again, I love it. The funniest thing about this is that all of the things that they did were things that I tried to do as a preteen. I was obviously less successful because I just always had to talk people into doing things, and it was always so hard to get anybody to do anything.
We're proto-G's. Progeny.
Like, I wanted a magazine so bad when I was like in grade 5. I would talk my friends into it, but everyone is always so lame and don't want to do anything cool. So I had to eventually finish everything on my own and run a little class magazine on my own. I would release it every season. I also watched a very popular show about a teen girl rock band when I was like around grade 6, I think. And I started learning guitar because I wanted to be in a band of girls too, okay? I did bother my friends about it, but they once again kind of dipped when it came to, you know, putting in actual work. Same with writing a book. When I was 14, tried to write it with a friend. They didn't want to do it, so I wrote a fantasy book myself. 400 pages, baby. And you know what? Maybe if kids would have been watching more shows where people just do shit like Bratz, then they would be a lot easier to do things with. Because everyone gives up too easily and doesn't want to do anything cool ever. I'm a sucker for girls media where girls become a band. They run a magazine, they create a cool project together. And I think that's a great thing to show kids, honestly. They don't need to know how hard things are in the real world yet. Let them get inspired and try to make a rock band with a few of their 11-year-old friends. It's gonna be good for them regardless of whether it works or not. This interest in life and concerns of leaving a mark in the world are very relevant for young kids, and I think that they have a great way of addressing it, like with Sasha in the episode about alien invasion.
Like, what a lame-o, boring, regular school day. First, time for romance, time for love, time for encounters.
Where she is concerned that she hasn't invented or done anything exceptional, like the great women in history that she wrote a paper about. The best part of that episode is that they show that she learned that maybe it's not about making history, but about making history better.
Encounters perfume is guaranteed to make your guy go gaga for girly. And there's a special guy this girly wants gaga.
In any case, I'm glad that everything feels possible for these girls. It's a great source of inspo and some levity for kids. I think that everyone needs a bit of that, honestly. Even when they're older, but especially when they're kids and running into struggles for the first time. Realism is cool as support too, but a bit of wish fulfillment is also needed. Number 5, dialogue. I think that this show has pretty great dialogue, actually. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. Of course, there's a lot of campy nonsense as well.
Hey, you gotta pay for that!
What? Oh,
Who do you think you are?
I am the store manager. Okay? You can't just have that.
Return it, please. Oh,
Yeah, you bet I will. Shoplifting. Yeah. Disgrace. I've gone bad at such an early age. Where's your mom? Until I tell her what you did.
Mom? Not in my vocabulary.
Oh, don't be cute with me, little man or woman. Whatever.
However, Bratz just really nails the teen dialogue vibe, but make it a bit more wholesome, remove all the swearing. Yeah, it's not like exactly like what 17-year-olds are speaking like, but it's an 8-year-old's idea of what 17-year-olds speak like. The dialogue flows well with a lot of memorable points that are super funny.
Oh, and his father joined a cult! Ooh, and his sister tattooed her tongue. Hey, remember, no blood on the carpet! Weird that Heather just disappeared. Maybe she decided to cut out and see a movie. For the rest of her life? Please! I command you. Hush! She's hot.
Yeah, she is. Excuse me. Showtime for the master stud?
Ick, Dylan.
I do think that a lot of people would be surprised as to how many things work about Bratz wit-wise. If you wonder why that even is, look no further than the fact that the creator of the show is a writer from Daria, that late 90s animated show Daria. She was also a writer on the 90s Addams Family show. That was quite interesting to find out as well. Truly fun little treat. Of course, I have to mention a con about dialogue writing here too, which is once again a sign of the times, but things like Tweevils using a word that's ableist, the word that Beyonce and Lizzo got in trouble for recently. It was quite commonly used back in the day, apparently. I was not here for it, so I don't know for sure, but apparently it has. And just like many other words that have been called out a lot more recently, because people got to hear just how many people say it since we're exposed to each other a lot more people are kind of calling it out. Oh, a little side note on Bratz Babies and Kids. Both are loved by many people, as far as I understand, but I thought that it was a bit strange that they were written in quite a similar way in terms of dialogue sometimes, a little bit too close to the teen versions of the Bratz, but we did get this gem.
Okay, now try that in C.
And yes, if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen me edit a lot of songs to this gnome dancing song situation or gnome choreography. You're welcome. Also, the animation is so much worse in those movies. I don't know what's up with that. I think that it's because there wasn't as much funding for these like side collections or whatever. I don't really know. Also, the cutaway scenes, dream sequences, all that kind of stuff, they can get pretty weird, but like I love them. Some of them are funny, and for me, weirdly relatable.
Put like hair remover in her shampoo, and she went bald. You did that? It took like forever for my hair to grow back. I like so hate you.
And some made me think that Jordan Peele wrote Us after watching a Bratz Kids movie.
Wait! You can't do this! Who are you? I'm your doppelganger. I was your reflection, and now I'm you. Enjoy. I know I'm going to. No, wait! I'm the real Sasha! Let me out! Let me out!
There's only one kiss in there, and it's between the parents of Lena and Simblin in the Pixies movie, whatever. That's the only one in the entirety of the series. Once again, for the show that was deemed so inappropriate, I was really expecting more things that would warrant that reaction. I just, at least more inappropriate, or rather more explicit romance stuff than in Barbie. Barbie had kisses in the movies and shows and whatever. Not as many, like you're not gonna remember like a million of them, but there's at least 3 or 4. So I was expecting something more risque at least, because they got so much flack for it. Instead, we got a bunch of sweet girls that are great friends to each other, and somehow everyone is pissed at them for being too provocative. An absolute mess. In conclusion, Bratz has a lot of funny moments. Some purposeful, some not so much. But this is definitely a show and a series of movies that was a lot more self-aware in the writing department that people give it credit for. The writing does feel fragmented though, because it's, you know, a self-contained episode kind of show. It's within the norm, to be honest.
What's up?
Some films suffered from that because they definitely were written like 3 episodes instead of a movie. All in all, I'm really glad we have this series because it only gets campier and more fun to watch the older you get because it just really hits that sweet spot of weird, good, and bad at the same time. Camp in its purest form. With some moments clearly being written to be perceived that way from the get-go.
But this Dylan guy is supposed to be like a ladies' man.
And get crazy and
He's essentially the horny weasel of this movie. Every movie needs a horny weasel.
I was only running for selfish reasons. Important reasons, but selfish ones.
I'll be her dessert.
Yeah, a whole ass Dylan look besties.
Yeah!
So, Bratz produced a lot of games. Most of them are really hard to play now, obviously. It's been years since they came out, almost 20 years to be exact, and I'm famously not a gamer. I decided to do the most younger sibling thing I could possibly do and watch a playthrough of the games that focus on the main 4 girls, not Bratz kids and no pony stuff. You know the drill. The first game that set the tone for the Bratz games was obviously Bratz Rock Angels, the same as with the movies. The game came out in 2005 and was basically an open world type of game with side quests and the main storyline being quite similar to the one that's in the movie but not exactly the same. There's a lot of dressing up and makeup changes, a lot of options for customizations actually, a pretty impressive amount for a 2005 game. The graphics are not fantastic, but I really can't say too much on that because all of the games that I played as a kid around that time looked like this.
Get in, get jumping! Selves. Get to it!
As in, they did not look very good. I think I'm just a little bit biased towards those graphics just because they remind me of my childhood, but I don't actually think that it's good, obviously, especially to compare to nowadays. I feel like there was like this massive jump between 2005 and 2010 even in terms of game graphics. I think the creators had some kind of deal with some brands like Claire's and Foot Locker because you can actually see those stores placed in the mall when you're just running around the world, which is an interesting choice. There are some mini games and all of them are kind of falling into usual mini game territory that you would see in all of the games that were released at that time. Some of them were more fun, but some of them were posing, which is basically like striking a pose. And honestly, posing challenges happen a little bit too often in this game. However, once again, I remember that a lot of mini games would be repeated and just like slightly changed in games like this, which is a little bit annoying now, but I guess I did not mind it that much as a kid. I do wish there was more variety. Just having posing for even mini games where the girls are supposed to be performing with instruments on stage, it's kind of a little bit strange, but that does get remedied in later games. A few things to mention that are interesting about the first installment of the Bratz games is the automatically triggered lines that NPCs say to you when you just pass by them. Girl, they're all bullying Bratz. Like, I was surprised to see that. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, it did make me giggle, okay, it did. It's a pretty good time, honestly, like I'm not gonna dog on them that hard, but everyone is a nasty little bitch in this game. It's crazy, just listen to these.
Hey Sasha, I wish I had the nerve to be that out there.
Hey, what are friends for, right? Hey Jade, you look how I feel. It's one of those days.
I guess with a little makeup you could make that look okay.
That's some kind of statement you're making, right?
So, your clothes lack style. Perhaps we can help you with that.
Is it Halloween already? What are you wearing?
When I tell you that not a single character had something nice to say when you were just passing by them, I mean it. And in the next games, the characters are not shady anymore, and I'm not gonna lie, kind of missed that. I don't know, it was iconic, like what am I supposed to say? Also, it does make some sense that the creators would want to show that Bratz are more about actually expressing themselves rather than following trends, and that's why a lot of people wouldn't like what they were wearing. But at the same time, how the hell would they be selling so many Bratz magazines if that was the case? Whatever. This game did give me so many fun clips, so I'm really happy about that.
No! How could this happen?
Bratz Forever Diamonds has a similar structure, but as I said, it's a bit sad that the shade is gone, and it would be okay if they like tone it down, maybe like have just like a few characters saying shady things, but it kind of was a very drastic change from the previous installment. Also, Byron's comments that he says to the girls while they're on the catwalk.
That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see.
I swear, Byron, when I see you, I like what I see. Ew. Bratz the movie is basically the same. Then we got Bratz for Real, which is based on the live action movie. I like point and click games where you just like explore the world and you just try to put items together to solve issues, whatever. But this game, it's not that interesting. And there's like mini games, like for example at the beginning there's a food fight, and again I said before that I do not like food fights, just another example of it, and also it's just not that fun of a game in general. As I said before with the live action movie, it's the same kind of with this game, that it just doesn't feel like it's Bratz. It misses that spark, and I'm not saying that it needs to be cartoonish to work, you know, but there's something missing about it. It's just the vibe is off. Then Girls Really Rock came out, and that was a return to the usual style of the game. I do want to mention the sound design. I really liked it. I wouldn't say that it's super exceptional as much as I just think that the landscape that they created with sound is very relaxing, and I enjoy little sound like the phone buttons. And the whole naturey vibe in that game specifically is really great, but honestly just the sounds that they used for their phones and whatever, like little audio clips here and there, really worked for me. I thought it was really cute. The next one was Fashion Boutique, and
Girlfriend, stop! Get back in the car! You come back here!
I did not like the look of it, so I did not watch much of it. The quality is a lot worse than other games in terms of just the fact that this game was made in 2012, not 2004 or 5 as with the previous game. So it's so strange that it looked like this. I don't know, I didn't like that at all. There was also Total Fashion Makeover for iOS, but it's not available in my region. Knuckphobia again? I don't know. Anyway, there has been another game, Flaunt Your Fashion, which is a game that can be played on a bunch of different consoles, whatever. Funny story about that. So, since fashion-related nostalgic 2000s IPs are kind of my niche, Outright Games has reached out to me in like September or something like that, and they asked me if I wanted to get a Bratz PR pack because of this game coming out, and I was kind of excited to see what they were going to deliver, because Bratz has a lot of potential as an all ages game, or honestly any other all ages media in general, especially with all the viral moments that they scored in the past couple of years. So I was waiting, and then I finally got this slip from the postal services, and I went to pick it up. I picked it up, I got really excited, I ran home, I opened it, and okay. I was so confused because I didn't even know that this company was producing a JoJo Siwa game, and I don't have a PS4. We actually talked about which console I do have or have at least access to, and it wasn't PS4, so I was like, what is going on? So I thought that maybe they sent me the wrong package, you know, because it just doesn't seem like it was for me. And they were like, well, we don't know if there's gonna be a PR pack for Bratz anymore. So I was like, JoJo Siwa is not my niche though. Like, why'd you guys send me this? This is the reason why I don't have a PO box in my description or anything like that, because I just don't want companies sending me shit that I don't need, you know? Still, I was excited for the game because I saw this little clip doing rounds on Twitter when the game already came out, but I haven't seen it yet.
A what? Girl, you just made that up.
A what? Girl, you just made that up. I thought finally the girls won. Just to find out that it was the only moment like that in the game, and that it is a less fleshed out game than the originals. And the originals were not that much better than this game per se, but there are a couple of things that really affect the overall feel. First and foremost, it was a lot better in terms of fashion and makeup options. It seems really strange that a newer game wouldn't have as many options. There was also some kind of issue with the colors of eyeshadow and like makeup in general. You would put makeup on and then it wouldn't even look what it's supposed to look like. Basically, it wasn't working. Honestly, I don't know why they didn't take this opportunity to make something iconic. You've got this property that would work really well for all ages. You could have the new demographic playing, you know, kids, but you can also have adults enjoying it too, because adults, people who are in their 20s, 30s right now, were growing up with those dolls and with those pieces of media that would be nostalgic for them. So you could make money off of two different demographics instead, you know? They could have had it all, babe, and they didn't. They could have had Flo release a song for them. I think that Flo right now would probably not be as expensive as some other artists, and it would be a perfect fit too. So I don't know why they didn't do that. Also, this game feels like a phone game, okay? Genuinely, why would you need a console to play this game? And the reason why it feels like that is not just the mini games or something like that. It's also the perspective that they created the game in. Instead of following a character behind them as you're moving through the world, as it was in the original games or with many games on the market, they decided to go with a bird's eye view. You know, you're just kind of looking from above on the map. That is already a little bit annoying, especially for a console game. But there's another factor that kind of makes it so much worse, and that is the map itself. All the objects, all the buildings, everything is so far apart from each other that when you're moving around the map, you're kind of a little bit disoriented and you can't really tell where the character is per se. You just have to rely on general direction, which is just not that interesting, just visually straining. And the last thing about this game that I want to mention is its price. It is literally $40 US dollars. If you're Canadian, that's gonna be like 50 bucks. That's insane. Yeah, I don't know, man. It just I think they could have knocked it out of the park, focusing on giving iconic one-liners here and there. Honestly, even 20 of those, you just give enough for Stan Twitter to run around with little clips from the game, and no one's gonna complain about the price, because everyone would be like, oh, this just, oh, it gave me so much, it gave me so much, when in reality, like, it didn't really, but at the same time it did, because at least it's iconic. Kind of like, you know, with the show or with the movies, a lot of things in terms of quality were lacking, but there's so much material there. It's genuinely so easily memeable, it's easily clippable and usable in different types of situations, and just doing that would have saved them so much money, while at the same time satisfied the fans a lot more than whatever the hell this is. All in all, Bratz has some iconic 2000s games under its belt, and if done right, they could have even made a lot of money and a lot of impact in 2023. But laziness fumbles bags and dreams.
Girlfriend, stop! Get back in the car! What's up? What's up?
So, a live-action Bratz movie, let's talk about that. If any of my little rhinestones fell off, just ignore it. Okay? Anyway, in 2007, Bratz released a live-action movie that has once again pissed a lot of old men off. I mean, I have my qualms with the movie. I personally do not think that it fits the brand very well, and it's not very well produced or written. But honestly, the issues that these critics had with it are kind of, as per usual, misguided. This shirt is so cute. I keep getting distracted by it in the viewfinder. Like, they could have complained about literally anything. The director's choices when it came to directing actors, the myriad of mistakes when it comes to the on-set production, or how so many things about this movie just make no sense. But they decided to say, we are regaled with the spectacle of sparkly girl characters who are aimed squarely at impressionable tween girl audience, walking about in sorts of high fashion outfits you normally see on a catwalk or in the bar of a 5-star hotel.
Those examples are bullshit and you know it!
Okay, also, what kind of catwalks would you even be frequenting, Jim? Anyway. Or, how do our flighty young heroines fight back? By shopping, of course. There is no problem, it seems, a new tube top and a miniskirt can't fix. I'm not even a shopping therapy type of person, but since they're just being haters, yeah, Brooke, as a matter of fact, it would. Like, what did you expect from a movie that was made for kids about a fashion doll line? If you don't like that, that's cool, but you have to be consistent. And of course they wouldn't be consistent because they are probably absolutely in love with everything else when it comes to overconsumption, especially when it comes to things that they like. Anyway, there are, of course, reasonable critiques too, but this is my video, so only my critiques matter. So number 1, I don't feel like Yasmin even looks like Yasmin. Don't come for me if you don't think so. She just doesn't really match my idea of what Yasmin would look like. I might be wrong here, but it just, I don't know, something's off. Why are the characters different from their established personalities? I understand tweaking things here and there, especially since for a live action movie, it would be better to make the characters even more complex and more human than their cartoon counterparts. But in the case of this movie, they just went really far away from the original characters in general, while going further away from complexity and depth as well. Like, why? Chloe is now a klutz. If you're waiting for me to continue with more of a description, you'll be waiting for a long ass time because that's all we get, really. Like, why is it her only personality trait in this movie? You want to have a one-dimensional character? Okay, whatever. But why change the established character? Just make her a drama queen or an anxious type or something like that, as with the original Chloe. Because what the hell is the point of creating a new character entirely? It's not like this is a new franchise. They did make her good at sports, which is quite Chloe, but then it just doesn't make sense. How is she good at sports but is such an extreme klutz? How do you have good balance and physical agility and not have it at all at the same time? Just make it make sense. It's annoying. So another character in terms of personality that feels very, very off is Yasmin. Yasmin runs into this guy and she's mad at him even though she's the one who ran into him, and she's literally screaming at him. Yasmin screaming like that at a person? Like, literally any other Bratz would make more sense than Yasmin. Yasmin would be the last one I would expect to do something like this, genuinely. And the worst part of it all is that the person she ran into, the guy that she ran into, is supposed to be her love interest, and it is Dylan.
Well, not really.
I was so confused when I saw this character and they referred to him as Dylan. There's nothing Dylan about this dude. What the fuck is the point of doing this? Why not make him Ethan? First of all, Ethan is at least Yasmin's love interest in other iterations of the show or of the franchise in general. Yeah, the actor doesn't really look like Ethan, but at least he would be her love interest in other iterations, right? So it would make a little bit more sense. They could have also made him Cameron, even though it's not the best idea because a lot of people do like Chloe with Cameron, but at least it would make sense in terms of looks. But Dylan, out of all the guys, Dylan? I'm sorry, but like, Dylan is arguably the most featured male character in the show and in the movies. He's at least supposed to be mixed. Maybe you guys know something I don't. Maybe the creators know something I don't. But to me, that dude he's not white. Why did you choose someone so white? I just don't get it. What's the point? What's the point? This character, being Dylan, is the most nonsensical thing imaginable, really. I do want to say that Dylan line that he tells her that went viral everywhere.
Watch where you're going. Are you blind?
No, but I'm deaf.
You don't sound deaf.
Well, you don't look ignorant, but I guess you can't judge a book, right?
It was very popular and for a good reason. He kind of snapped on that one. Okay, the fashion does match some of the original girls in terms of like what they prefer in terms of style, I guess. Namely, Jade and Yasmin are the closest ones. Even though Chloe is not too far off, it just doesn't scream Bratz. It doesn't even whisper it, to be completely honest with you. And also, I'm just not convinced on this rendition of Sasha's wardrobe. I think that the fashion just doesn't feel like Bratz. It feels like Pretty Little Liars. And I know that Janelle Parrish is in it, so maybe that's why this is the first thing that comes to mind for me. But I just don't see it as a Bratz movie. Where are skirts, high-waisted pants, bedazzled tops, hoop earrings even, platform heels? I think that there might be one for Janelle, but still. There's this thing that happens in the movie that I absolutely hate. Food fights. I can't stand them. I can't. I'm sorry. Babe, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but seeing food thrown around pisses me off. It takes so much effort to make food, to grow crops. Like, there's so much luck involved in just even having opportunity to eat whenever you want to and however you'd like. The villain of the story does not make sense, okay? The girl, what is her motivation? In movies that use cliches left, right, and center, I feel like it should be a lot easier to define your villains or antagonists, I guess. You don't really have to have a very good reason as to why they're doing what they're doing. It could be very cliche, and it's also really easy because everything can be very black and white. So I don't understand why they went for this by making her motivations extremely vague and kind of not very realistic either. And if they were going for like no realism whatsoever, that's also fair, but at least make it really fun, not just kind of lukewarm motivation. She's supposed to be mad about a sit-in chart, but at the same time, while they were on set filming the movie, they didn't bother to actually make a proper map that she's referring to when she's like telling everyone what they're supposed to sit or whatever. It doesn't match what she's saying about it. It's such a small thing, but it just perfectly encapsulates how little they thought about why that character is even there. Because on one hand, the conflict is supposed to be that the girls grew apart because of their separate interests that they are not sharing and stuff like that. So why do you need an antagonist? And if you do need an antagonist, you need to give her something else to do than just walk around with a map. I do think that her musical numbers are a vibe though, except for that weird hip and hand move. An odd choice, but like, good for her. So the movie feels very weird in terms of progression and the climax of the story. It's not well structured at all. It feels like there are many peaks and valleys in the story instead of a one overarching story that carries the entirety of the movie, which you usually have to have the A story. You can have B and C stories or whatever the hell, but you need to have the A story on lock for the movie to work, okay? There are so many conflicts and so many things that are supposed to be presented as the big climax of the story, and it just falls through because there's so many of them. For example, Yasmin being exposed for hanging out with her grandma or something. Girl, what was that about, by the way? If I was at a party and someone started playing phone-filmed video of one of her classmates with a mask on dancing with their grandma, I would just be like, okay, who is the weirdo who's playing it on the projector? Because that's weird. Spending time with your family, not as weird as filming somebody and then showing it on a projector at a party. Like, how much of a weirdo do you have to be to do such a thing? Like, there's just a mask on her face, she's vibing to a song, and she's dancing with her grandma. Honestly, her grandma and I should go out for margaritas. I don't understand what the problem is. And then we have the final competition. Girl, what is going on, honestly? So the soundtrack did very well for itself. It is 21 tracks, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of confused about which ones were created for the movie and which ones were just like songs that they licensed or added to their catalog. Some of them are obvious, like Janelle's song or the Bratitude song. Janelle has a really sweet voice, I really like it. Open Eyes, Babe. She's my girl. She's my girl. Also, Diva what? Diva who? Diva where? That's me. Diva what? Diva who? Diva where? And the song Out From Under. Breathe you out. Breathe you in. It actually gained more popularity in 2008 because Britney Spears covered it and put it on her Circus album. That's crazy. Isn't it? Who knew that Britney covered a Bratz song? That's iconic. The lore is so delicious. I was having so much fun finding all of this out. Overall, I liked 11 out of 21 tracks. The score would have been higher if there wouldn't be that many men singing in that early 2000s voice. You know that I'm constipated, but I need to sing at 6 and then gaslight my girlfriend at 7 kind of voice. Craving her face. Cannot stand to look. Also, this might gonna be controversial, but Bratitude, that song, it might be one of the worst Bratz original songs. It's just an attitude, gonna take the latitude. I'm sorry, don't end me. But like, as if I was gonna pick this Glee core song over R&B and pop rock excellence that we got on the other albums, especially for the movies, the animated movies. The soundtrack had some smackers, it's true, but you have to understand that they're competing with some excellent albums from the repertoire. How do you pronounce that in English? You get it. I don't mind the ridiculousness of the movie. I like live action movies that try to capture the outlandish nature of cartoons or doll lines, but I just feel like the flavor is not accurate to Bratz, to like the entirety of the franchise, you know? This movie is a little camp, but it's not high quality camp, because I don't think that the creators were taking it seriously enough for it to be HQ camp. If you are the OG fan, let me know how you feel about it. I'm sure some of you liked it. Just like my personal opinion that the humor in it is not it. It's not at all in line with what the series or the previous movies were giving us. And like, not because the movie is more realistic or mature or anything like that. It just feels like this movie is giving me oranges and the rest of the franchise are apples. Do you know what I mean? I feel like this soundtrack is more Bratz than the movie itself.
So do whatever you want. Turn me into a blonde fashion doll if you have to.
I'm excited for this one. This show has a lot of great looks. It does need to be said that the reason why they look so good and why they have great outfits is because they are basically replicas of outfits of fashion dolls, which is, I mean, it's to be expected from a fashion doll show. So the entire show is made to show off those outfits and other Bratz products, obviously. And as much as it can be annoying to watch things that are basically advertisements, it's definitely different watching it now, since most of these dolls are not really available to buy. There's obviously some dolls that reappeared recently, but that's a whole different conversation. From that vantage point, it's really fun to look at these outfits and talk about them. There's a lot of collections of dolls, and also each doll usually came with 2 outfits. There were also outfit packs or fashion packs where you got like extra outfits. Basically what I'm saying is the showrunners had a very good selection to choose from. I'm sure they had like a mandated list of products that they had to include, but they are cute as hell, so whatever. Bratz is quite a unique show when it comes to fashion. While experimenting with it and not really having one style taking the lead in both the doll collections and the show, the creators still managed to create a recognizable style for the characters as a whole. You probably heard people say, oh, she looks like a Bratz doll, or he looks like a Bratz doll, or refer to a pair of platform shoes, high-waisted pants, or skirts in combination with crop tops as a Bratz outfit. And this is what I find interesting about this. Bratz really took over a bunch of different styles in people's minds. So many things are referred to as Bratz-like. And I oftentimes agree. As someone who was a kid when Bratz was created, a lot of styles were introduced to me from just seeing them here and there, not on Bratz specifically. Hoop earrings are nothing new. People have been wearing them for ages. But somehow I always think of hoop earrings whenever I think of Bratz. Of course, it's because it was used in almost all of their outfits, especially in the show. When it comes to the main girls, I don't think that the show does a great job of separating their styles from each other. I think that the doll lines definitely do it better, but even then, when the girls are not really wearing casual outfits and there is a more specific concept involved in the collection, a lot of specific fashion influences that usually you would see on only one of them, or more likely to see on one of them than the other, kind of goes out the window, but not always. I enjoy Bratz and their looks so much that I don't really care about that. I don't really mind it, but I can see how some people might prefer collections that did allow for more diversity in terms of styles within one collection and to show their personalities a little bit more. I do want to point out that a lot of background characters do not get a lot of great looks to compare to the main girls. Even the guys that do exist in the doll forms and have like a ton of clothing options, they still have little variety and oftentimes have really bland outfits to compare to what their counterparts in the doll form have. The only exception is maybe Dylan. Dylan doesn't have bad, like really bad, boring outfits, but I would say that Cameron, absolutely atrocious.
This is an outrage.
Ethan doesn't really get to wear anything but the work uniform that often. By the way, the top that Dylan is wearing for most of the media produced for Bratz is actually Cameron's top from Tokyo Go-Go. show collection. So with that in mind, they really did Cameron dirty with all the outfits that he had available in the doll form. You decided to go with this bland gray two-piece. I don't get it. With all the background characters, it's not like their outfits are offensive looking, but they're definitely bland. They're not rendered very well.
Can we fix it? Baby, can we fix it?
But they do their job. I do like, for example, Roberta and her outfits. She's not really a doll that you can buy, so it's obviously a little bit more surprising that she gets even a couple of outfits, and obviously she gets another outfit because she's being transformed by Jade. In any case, but let's just cover some major looks in the show. So starting with Burdine and the Tweevils.
Or at least like throw a brick through his windshield.
These three don't really change their outfits at all in any of the movies or TV specials. I mean, I guess the twins changed their dress color once, but that doesn't count. Come on now. That doesn't stop it from being iconic though. All three are wearing the same shade of pink. I would probably call it like hot pink or fuchsia pink, something along those lines. Some white accents. Burdine's suit reminds me of the 60s silhouette, while the Tweevils look a little bit more Bratzified, with the girls wearing platform shoes, which is definitely like one of those iconic aspects of Bratz design. I think this is like the main reason why Burdine looks like such an opposite of the Bratz girls visually speaking. She has very small feet, and she is wearing monochrome bright pink outfit in the classic 60s style, which I find really interesting because Barbie was created in, I think, 1959, so like literally at the beginning of 60s, which is interesting. And it's a little bit reminiscent of the day to night outfit that was created for, for Barbie in 1985, so that's interesting. The creator said that the outfit and the characters were inspired by someone who was one of the first producers on the show, her and her like twin daughters. But I think that there's definitely, I mean, come on now. Let's be a little bit, real here for a second, I love that Burdine has a tiara, especially how much she like frets over it even though it's just a bunch of rhinestones. That's hilarious to me. Burdine's makeup is also a little bit more old school, same with the Tweevils of course, because they kind of mimic her look. At least old school for the time that it was released and the way that the Bratz are doing their makeup. I just feel like the tight lining of the eye with black, having a smoky eye kind of look, but the shadows are placed in a very 90s way rather than 2000s to compare to the Bratz girls who are wearing more of a 2000s kind of look. Also, I want to mention the design of Royale with the pink fur everywhere. I got curious as to why small dogs as like props for the mean antagonist is kind of like a thing in the early 2000s, but I did not really find anything compelling. There's this page on TV Trope's website that is called Mr. Muffykins, but it wasn't that useful. Honestly, I don't think it does any justice in terms of research, and so I think it was probably inspired by the big names in socialite circles, with all the dogs being kind of, in their purses or whatnot. I don't know. It would be a lot more fun to see at least some outfit changes. I think that there was maybe another one where Burdine is wearing a swimsuit instead of like a regular outfit, but it's still kind of same stuff. So I wish we got to see something else. However, it is kind of part of their character that they don't change, they don't try anything new, and they're not really trying to express themselves through their fashion, even though they still end up doing it. I did not know how to group the outfits to save my life. It was driving me up the wall, honestly, mostly because there's too much to cover. I think I'll talk about some outfits that are kind of themed together first, and then we'll go into the individual girls and address their outfits. So first and foremost, Rock Angel's outfits. Obviously, we have to start there. In the show though, the outfits and the hair for Chloe and Jade are swapped. So I'm gonna address the outfits based on the show, but just know that it's supposed to be like the other way around. Whatever. So first and foremost, these outfits are amazing. Yeah, absolutely incredible actually. All the flared pants, amazing. The little accessories and details on the pants, absolutely fantastic. Sasha's outfit is genuinely the dream. Yeah, I genuinely have dreams about it. It's just so cute. The red piping down the leg, are you kidding me? It's so cute. And the belt, you can see it up close on the doll.
Fantastic.
A lot of them have cropped leather jackets, and I love the variation in them with the contrasting stitching. And Yasmin has this white lapel. It looks really great with the choker as well. It's really cute. It definitely works with the white hat, and I love Jade having dark shades on. It just does it for me. It just does it for me. I can't lie. I love all of their hats, and also the shade of the lipstick that most of them are wearing, except for Chloe, I think. Oh, it's fantastic. It's such a good red. All in all, absolutely insane. Nay, mental. Live in concert, that's what we're gonna call these outfits. It's interesting that this collection was actually called Space Angelz first, and I think that it would have been a better name, to be honest. It's just a little bit more fun. You've already seen me wear one of the outfits, Yasmin's outfit, and I gotta show you all of them because this is a perfect example of Y2K fashion, especially inspired by celebrities like TLC, Lisa Lopez, and Britney Spears, and Jung-hwa from, you know, from the East. Basically any like super futuristic style from that time. To us, this is more of a like a retro future outfit or style. I love it. It's so fun. The hairstyles are so cute. The color streaks actually make a lot of sense here, and we'll get to where they don't really make a lot of sense or don't mesh well, but here I really like them. I also love Jade's top and the details in it. It is just so adorable. The see-through parts also add a lot of flavor to the look as well. The headsets that they wear, not in this particular image, but they usually wear them like when they're singing or whatever. In the beginning of the show where the theme song is playing, you can see that they're wearing those headsets. It's so Britney Spears, and I mean any other pop star of the time, I guess, will do too. But it's funny that everyone thinks that in Oops, I Did It Again, Britney had a headset on, even though she didn't, and a lot of people are kind of claiming that it is a Mandela effect. Honestly, it isn't. It's just the result of associating Y2K aesthetic and that Y2K futurism with the pop stars of the time, and obviously they all were wearing headsets most of the time when they were performing. So it's just like a natural kind of thing to jump to. It's not a Mandela effect, but whatever. In any case, I really love these. So sport outfits. They're basically just wearing denim cargo pants and just like tank tops with their logos on it. It's funny that they're all wearing it as if it's like a uniform. It's a little funny that they're using denim to exercise in. It's absolutely insane. I can't even imagine how annoying that would be. I think they're cute, and I think that they fit Chloe best, I think. That's why I think that it's kind of cute when she's wearing it in like day-to-day life as well, except the tank top has a bit of a different design obviously here. Next one is the slumber party outfit.
I did it! Hot, hot!
I love these so much, you don't understand, okay? I absolutely adore them. Just listen. They're so cute, okay? I love Chloe's pants. The texture on them is really well done as well. The way that they're all wearing heels, absolutely iconic. Honestly, this is the type of extra I am. Walking around in my two-piece home outfit, drinking kombucha out of a Roaring 20s champagne glass. They get me. These are definitely up there with my favorites, honestly.
What's up? What's up?
Forever Diamonds outfits. It's just basically a pair of jeans, flared jeans, cami top, and they're all bedazzled. It's basically mug bling central. Honestly, I love the range that we get with Bratz. They were definitely referencing the styles that were the biggest back then, and I love that. It's not as obviously mug bling as it could be, of course, but I really don't think it needs to be. This is more of an interesting take on this style, to be honest, for fashion dolls in general, because they're making it a little bit more of their own rather than just copying the real life styles. Even though it's more of a uniform look, I think that they did make it work within the movie, especially because they made it a Sheridan special outfit or design style, so it kind of makes sense that she would approach all of their outfits in the same type of way. I know that the girls were already wearing the base outfits before Sheridan blinged them up, but don't ruin it for me, okay? Then we have this set of dresses from Girls That Really Rock. I like what it looks like in the movie in terms of textures, but I would say that this set of dresses is a little bit boring, mostly because the outfits are quite similar, but even though they're similar, they're not entirely the same, as you know, this every look is the same kind of disease that a lot of shows struggle with. There's some variation, whatever, but it's not like my favorite looks because I just don't think that they are that interesting. These outfits are what I'm calling the class outfits, and I'm gonna refer to them as such just because they appear in a few movies, in a few episodes and whatnot, and I'm just gonna refer to them by their doll collection name. So these ones are adorable, of course. All the pigtails, girl, I love that. But also I think that I kind of like their hairstyles a little bit more than even their outfits. I think that I do prefer the shirt color from the dolls for Yasmin's outfit, but in general, they're still cute. They're not like my top favorites, but they're still cute. Camping / hiking outfits. Ooh, these ones, I love them. I do, honestly. Another example of perfect styling / design for a group of characters based on an activity. Like, are you seeing this? The layering is so excellent here, especially the layering in Yasmin's outfit. I love it so much. I love seeing Chloe in some warmer colors, especially the orange. Those thigh-high socks, love it. And those boots, fantastic. Jade's hat and dress combo kind of remind me of Christmas, but honestly still cute as hell. I do love me a winter mini dress. Sasha's hat is so cute, and the color of her outfit is adorable as well. We rarely see her in those colors in general, to be honest. I love Yasmin's and Sasha's braids. It's just, honestly, everything about this works for me. The skirt on Yasmin, that belt that's kind of at an angle, resting diagonally on her hips, I absolutely adore it. I want this outfit so bad, you don't understand. Like, all of these outfits, actually, it's genuinely a 10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10. Across the board. Fashion pixies. This is an interesting one because skirts over jeans are always gonna have like an extreme reaction from everybody. People either love it or hate it, and most people hate it, to be honest, but I think it's interesting to implement this trend in fashion, especially as an aesthetic for a movie that's about pixies, or connect this style to pixies and fairies in general. It's a really interesting take, to be honest. I think there's just not enough variety between their outfits. All of their outfits are exactly the same. They just have a recolor, which is, you know, a thing that we get with a lot of shows, and I'm always going to complain about it because I think they can do better. I do like the design, especially in combination with the makeup and their little butterflies on their faces. It's really, really cute. Obviously, I'm gonna think that it's cute.
That's what you do to me. The narco freak.
I think that Lena has like a different type of skirt where you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, so we could have had this. We could have had everyone have like a different style, slightly different style of the same type of outfit, but we got like a recolor and that's it. So it's a little bit annoying. Regardless, I think that this is a unique design, and I like that they were trying different types of things. And I like that the jeans look like they're spray painted. Okay, so Genie Magic outfits. Yeah, this one is obviously a tough one to discuss because the Orientalism is Orientalisting here. Yeah. Orientalism as in Edward Said's definition of Orientalism. It's also important to mention that Bratz does not apply an Oriental view on the actual Eastern characters in their story. So I don't want to like hand out heavy accusations like that, but it's definitely a type of Orientalism for sure. It's the type that kind of renders all Eastern cultures as one big ephemeral entity that does not belong to anyone, you know? I think that the fact that Katya is a person of a different culture with a different style, fashion speaking at least, I guess, it's cool. And the fact that her style is not seen as something to be changed or fixed or something that is unfashionable is also cool too. This is a comment directed at my high school friends who were embarrassed that I wore an Ushanka in the winter, which is just like a regular winter hat to me. Not like a thing that you only wear to weddings or funerals or something like that. It's just a hat. And I took it off and I put it in my locker because I was trying to assimilate so hard. And now everyone and their grandmother is wearing them. And it's like cool and fashionable or whatnot. But it's of course not referred to as an Ushanka because God forbid. So yeah, I would actually love for people to not not act like these clothes are somehow unfashionable or weird. And like, I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with the girls dressing like Katya when she shows them these styles, right? The problem is more with the fact that these outfits don't really belong to any culture. They are kind of like an amalgamation of a bunch of things. Those outfits are like the melting pot, you know, of everything under the sun in the East, Middle East. Honestly, they mixed everything together. It's very vague of me to say it this way, but it's because there's so many cultures, even in those areas, that all have different traditions and different clothes, that it's just like, it's definitely like a mess, you know? I find this issue with cultural appropriation quite complicated because things oftentimes lose their meaning and their origins when they're getting adapted, and I wonder how we can make sure that things don't lose their meaning or their origin, even with all of our people moving around and, you know, exchanging cultures with other people, whatever. I would love to hear from you guys, from people who are in marginalized communities especially, because I'm clearly not someone who has like a lot of lived experience in terms of experiencing forms of cultural appropriation or having this weird fashion stealing situation going on, whereas a lot of other people have more of that experience to pull from when they talk about it. So I'm like heavily relying on what I've learned through academic works and, you know, studying Orientalism and stuff like that. So let me know what you think about it. Do you think that the spread of cultural styles would be a positive thing for representation if they retain their names and origin without melting, you know, into one Orientalist aesthetic or into something that people in the West kind of rename and use as their own? Like, do you think that would be better? Or do you think that people just... Because the thing is, we can all stay in our lanes, obviously, right? But I just don't think that is going to happen. Just the same way as with language, people kind of start exchanging things and they start coming up with new things that kind of come from somewhere. And I just wonder whether it could be remedied by actually naming things what they are and retaining the meaning and the origin, or if that wouldn't even work either. Like, let me know what you think about it, because I don't know. Like, do you think that this movie and line would be better if they were specific about Katya's culture? Had like accurate fashion representation from that area, like with the real names of the garments used and all of that kind of stuff? Like, do you think that would make it better or useful in any way? Because people not knowing who created what leads to this weird, you know, glazed donut lips situations that we had with Hailey Bieber recently. It's clearly not working because Bratz probably were trying to avoid stereotyping people, but this is not really working as how they wanted it to work, to be honest. This is also not the first time that they kind of generalize and use like a made-up culture to avoid offending people, I guess. They also do the exact same thing by creating Dravakians and other vaguely Eastern European people who like, it literally, they just kind of create their own country and they present them as lawless. And basically Byron says that Dravakia is a lawless country.
What's the deal with Slovakia anyway?
Slovakia is a lawless country with no international treaties. The type of place that welcomes criminals.
What country in the world doesn't have laws? Explain that to me, like, honestly. You know, the spies are oftentimes from that area of the world and they vaguely refer to them as some kind of Akians, Dravakians, or, you know, whatever. You get the picture. The last set of outfits we're going to talk about before we get into individual girls is the pirate outfit. So I did not realize that these were pirate outfits when I first looked at them. I genuinely couldn't figure out what was on their heads, whether it was a hat or some kind of bandana or whatever it was. It's a bandana, as far as I understand. It's also hard to see them in the actual show because they kind of adjusted the outfits a little bit. Like, for example, Jade is literally wearing this outfit, which is her everyday outfit type of thing that she's not really wearing in the actual doll collection. But then she appears with a bandana and this outfit with the rest of the girls when two of them are wearing the pirate outfits. See, this is why I had to like get kind of creative with the way that I'm structuring the design outfit kind of part, because I don't know I don't know why they kind of mixed and matched sometimes. Like, sometimes it really made sense, but sometimes it's just a little bit confusing because it's like, aren't you trying to promote this new collection? What is going on? Whatever. The outfits are cute. I do wonder what those skirts would look like in real life if they had this type of hem. Obviously, I love the boots. I love knee-high black boots. This is just my favorite type of shoe. Like, what are we even talking about here, you know? They're not my favorites in the show, but I do think that the collection, like the outfits in the doll collection, they're kind of slap, I'm not gonna lie. They're kind of cool. They do rely on some recoloring a little bit too much, but whatever. I'm enjoying the design overall quite a bit. So let's start with Sasha. Sasha. The outfits in the sections, they're gonna be split by girlies. We're gonna address all of their outfits. Also, the creators oftentimes pulled looks from dolls that are not like in the main 4 characters in the doll collections and kind of put those outfits on the main 4 girls. Whatever. The base outfit. I think that a lot of people would remember this outfit most just because a lot of the clips, a lot of the images that are usually used when people are talking about Bratz nowadays, you see this image of the girls walking together, and those outfits are kind of like the first casual outfits we see a lot from them in the movie, in the Rock Angelz movie, and I think the first episodes too. Don't quote me on that, because I was trying to figure out which ones would be the base ones, and they kind of changed them way too much to actually have like one base outfit, right? However, I'm referring to this set as the base outfit. This outfit consists of a lot of green, a lot of camo, pink Mary Jane platforms. This is really interesting to me that the whole outfit has like one vibe, but then you have pink Mary Janes. But I think that when it comes to Sasha being like next to everyone else, it kind of makes sense because they're always wearing Mary Janes, most of them at least. Sometimes when they don't, it's like one of them is not wearing them, you know? It's usually they go for Mary Jane's, platform Mary Jane's, which is really interesting to me. With this outfit specifically, to be honest, because it just does not seem like something you would wear. I'm a little biased here, I'm not gonna lie, because I don't know, I just like a lot of their outfits, so I'm a little biased. I would say that I probably wouldn't wear pink platforms with this outfit, but I'll allow it. I also like the chain as a belt, really cute. I love using chains for like literally fucking everything. So another one of Sasha's commonly worn outfits. This one, I just love the belt in this outfit so much, and I also think that her wearing like a pair of black shorts kind of fits her really well for some reason. I really don't know, maybe I just kind of got used to seeing her in this outfit and that's why I think that. I'm not sure, but I just really like it on her. It's just the belt being like slightly diagonally on her hips, I love that. The pinks and the reds, these rich colors, look really good on her, and we don't really get to see that often. Just I wish we had that happen more, because I think that red and like berry red suits Sasha really well. This outfit is so cute. I'm calling this the party outfits or whatever because they wear it to parties a lot, and I just love this little corset, this little denim skirt. Honestly, a lot of their outfits, they're very casual, especially in the show, because they kind of, I think they were trying to go for this more casual kind of look so they could reuse outfits for different types of scenarios. Cute as hell. What is going on? Why is my voice going? A white 2-piece. Basically, the skirt is the same skirt that Jade wears, that's pink. Basically from this outfit that I'm wearing right now, the pink skirt, this is the same skirt just recolored to be white, and the top is the same top that Chloe wears and the one that I wore as a Chloe in this video as well, but recolored to be black and white. Also this outfit, you see it on Chloe again, so I think that it was either a mistake or they just decided that they're gonna do this new combination for Sasha. Regardless, a pretty good outfit in general. Her fall look, she's got this like yellow and red combination, and I love yellow and red. You don't understand, I love those colors, especially this berry red. It's a little burgundy-ish, like leaning that way. I really like this outfit on her, except for the boots. The boots just do not work for me. I think that they work better with the outfit that Jade wears in the first episode or the first portion of the Rock Angelz film, because there those boots actually worked. In this outfit, I feel like white and black kind of doesn't really mesh really well with this outfit. I think that cognac brown boots, knee-high boots, or even if they were short, just in this nice brown rich color would look better with this outfit in my opinion. The London look, I love this outfit so much, you don't understand. Honestly, a lot of Sasha's outfits, I absolutely adore them and I want them so bad, you don't understand, you don't get it, okay? Anyway, it's cute as hell. It reappears a lot in other moments in the show. It's not like just the London look, but I'm just gonna refer to it as such. And I think that this outfit suits Sasha a lot. I'm a sucker for knee-high black boots, we already know that. I mean, who isn't? These hats that the girls wore with these outfits, so cute. I love that they were, you know, using so many hats. I think that hats are quite underutilized, especially nowadays, except for those ugly ass hockey or not hockey, like sport guys caps. I do not even know what you would call that. It's not a baseball cap, is it? I don't know. It's one of those ugly ass hats that I see everywhere in Canada and I just don't understand why. Just why would you do that to yourself? Whatever. Listen. This dress, oh, I love it so much. This is from the Ooh La La collection. I think this one was for Kumi. The color just speaks to me. It's such a nice, rich red color. And the layering is so cute. And the opera glove. We need to like power through this because we got so many outfits to talk about and we need to move. So Jade, the base outfit. So this one, I don't think that these types of outfits fit her very well. I think that other outfits that she has work better for her. This is one of my least favorite outfits on her. It's not a bad outfit. There's nothing wrong with it. This green outfit that she wore when she was introduced to us in the first movie, she's wearing those black and white boots with this outfit and I just feel like it works better. It might be because she has black hair, so it kind of balances out in some kind of fucking way. The France fit. I tweeted about this because I just love this outfit so much, you don't get it. If you look at the doll that's wearing this outfit, I think it's the same doll that had that red outfit before that Sasha is wearing in France. These boots have black bows at the front. I wanna put bows on my black boots so bad now, but I don't know how to do it in a cute way yet. I don't want it to look kind of shitty, so I need to figure that out, but it's just so cute. I love it. And the little hat, the little beret, the top, I absolutely love these types of tops where they have a square kind of neckline or a sweetheart neckline, but it's really low and it's just very straight lines here that don't converge closer to your neck. It's like a very flattering angle in my opinion. And this skirt is like 2-layered skirt with a little bow on the side. Girl, this outfit, I love this outfit so much. This is probably my #1 outfit for her or just like in general. Now onto the look that made me search for a dark olive green leather skirt for like ages because the animators decided to just snap at rendering on this skirt. It looks so good. It's such a nice color. I feel like maybe I wouldn't enjoy it on me in real life. I'm not entirely sure, but it's just such a like interesting, rich, earthy color that I would have loved in this slightly glossy, leathery kind of skirt. Ugh, it's just so cute. I absolutely love it. And the heels that she's wearing with it, fantastic. Then Jade's iconic flower jacket outfit.
Poor little Lisa.
I absolutely adore it as well. I think that it's so cute. The black flare jean and this jacket with what I assume are roses. I'm not entirely sure because I couldn't figure it out when I was like zooming in. Red looks great on her as well. Just really flattering. I don't know, it's just such a good outfit for her. And this one is probably one of the top ones in terms of me associating an outfit with Jade.
Dog like the wind!
The party look. The same skirt. I absolutely love this skirt as I told you. The top is fine. I don't really feel any type of way about it. It's just like a top. But the hat is kind of interesting. I haven't seen people in real life like wearing hats at this angle for a really long time. When was the last time you saw it in wild? Like just like on the street somewhere. I haven't seen it in so long. I don't know if this is a very Jade look, but it's definitely cute. So the London punk look. I absolutely love this outfit. You don't understand. This is such a good outfit. The pants are to die for. I love the pants in this outfit. The designers really said, let me make something iconic. Why did you have to create something this iconic, honestly? Like, I love it. The chains, everything. Studs at the bottom. The design is just so cute. Love it, love it, love it. The mesh like under top with the Union Jack on her shirt. The hat, definitely a 10 out of 10. And of course, her. Okay, you can't see it well. You were waiting for it, weren't you? If you weren't, I'm kind of offended. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I love that Jade is shown to be wearing pink because I think that it kind of shows that it wasn't like Bratz didn't like pink because they're not like other girls. It was more they didn't like the way that Berdine was kind of going about it and her obsession with just one thing and not seeing anything beyond that. Let's cover Chloe. The everyday look, the one that I wore for the art direction part, this outfit, the cargo pants and the top are like, obviously all of them wore those types of outfits, but I think that it definitely fits Chloe the most, mostly because she's kind of a little bit sporty, but this is a combination of things, you know, it makes her a part of the Bratz pack, but at the same time she's got a little bit of that sporty thing going on, you know? Probably like the look that I associate with her most, a party look, obviously. It's quite similar to the other girl's party look in the sense that it's a mini skirt, it's a top that's kind of a corset looking top. Really like this outfit, mostly because the skirt is just something about it's just speaking to me, especially because of the detailing on the skirt, the fact that it's pleated at the very bottom, but then there's also a belt. It kind of just finishes the look really well. And also this is the look that's not just a party look, it's also a mountain climbing outfit. Yeah, you heard me right. She climbed the mountain in this outfit, and imagine that this would be the outfit that people would find on her skeleton if she were to, you know, die in the mountains or whatever. The red dress. This is the dress that she wears to the iconic makeup convention where her makeup melts off of her face. Oh, I love it here. The dress is really nice. I personally really like it. And I also enjoy that they went for this lilac eyeshadow look. I think it works really well with this outfit. The London punk look. I think the outfit itself is cute. I like the fishnet stockings. I like the knee-high boots. I like the skirt and the top. But I do not like the hair here. The orange hair just doesn't work very well. The way that they animated it, it's like one of them is fighting for dominance over the other.
Oh, please! How much more hardcore evidence do we need? The bones, the cute little wind-up kitty, my horoscope!
How do I even explain it? It looks like you placed two different hairstyles in two different hair colors in Sims, and one of them is CC hair and another one is like in-game hair, and they're like fighting with each other, glitching out constantly. Do you know what I mean? This is actually the hair, the animation that made me think that Bratz was just like a terrible show when I didn't watch it yet, when I just saw clips from it. I genuinely thought, oh my god, who would even fucking put those two colors together in this outfit with this type of like animation going on? I mean, I was right to some extent. Anyway, everything else worked for me though, except for the hair. The France fit is absolutely iconic. I love it. The opera gloves, bitch, I wish we could wear really long ass opera gloves like everywhere. I wish it was like a thing and it was easy to find them, because it's really hard to find them, and when you do find them, they cost like a fucking fortune, so that's annoying. And even though it's not super out there, it is very cute though. And of course, it gave us the iconic Chloe being jealous screenshot. Yasmin, the base outfit, nothing special except for maybe the tie belt. I really enjoy that part of her outfit. Another outfit I want to mention that I kind of like associate most with Yasmin is probably this one. I really enjoy it, especially the jeans, but the jeans, I think I enjoy them so much mostly because of the wash of the jeans. I genuinely was looking for this wash online as well, being like, I need a pair like this. I do. It looks fantastic. I couldn't find anything that kind of matched the description that looked like it, so I kind of gave up on it, but it's really, really cute. I also think that this London look that she has is also very cute, and probably my favorite hair coloring combination from the London looks. Cute outfit. Specifically this skirt is just like, I really like that. I do. I wish I could see those skirts like human sized on a human to see what the hem would look like if it was on a big garment instead of like a small one for a doll or animated one. The contrasting stitching is just like always welcome in my books. The party outfit, again, I don't really feel like this is very Yasmin. It is very cute though. I don't think it does justice as to, you know, trying to fit the aesthetics of the girls or like the type of styles that they gravitate towards, because she's more of a vintage loving kind of girl, someone who's more into 70s type of styles, and this does not scream that. Personally, I think that a more bohemian look like this one, which is definitely a classic Yasmin outfit, I think that it would work better because it's just definitely not clear what kind of styles the girls are interested in personally. It's cool that they have matching outfits, but considering that the doll lines were showing more diversity in styles, I feel like it would be better to show more of that. And I feel like the other girls got a little bit more of their style shown off in the show to compare to Yasmin. I feel like there was no bohemian looks to speak of. I do not remember any. If you do remember any in the show, remind me, but I genuinely don't think that there's any. Maybe something like remotely related, but nothing really bohemian. Anyway, let's talk about objects real quick. So, Bratz phones. I mean, honestly, this is nostalgia speaking, I think, because I love these phones because they're flip phones.
Must be here for the rich and scorching singles weekend. That's right. I read that his family lost their entire fortune.
They are just a recolor of each other, so this is nothing that great. I'm not going to give them too much credit, especially when I really complain about things like that in Wink's deep dives, when I spoke about the fact that I don't like that they have phones that are just a recoloring of each other. But regardless of that, I still love flip phones. And Bratz laptops, their stationary computers are also cute.
That hottie on your computer screen. Oh, you like my screensaver? What modeling agency did you get him from? He's not a model. He's my cousin.
He's my cousin.
And the iconic boombox that Sasha uses a lot when she does her, music reviews. It is obviously the star of this fantastic clip of Bratz ignoring the phone and just dancing. The Bratz office furniture, fantastic. Their whole office, the design, I really enjoy that. This office is so unrealistic and I so love it. It really doesn't have to be realistic, babe. Like, speaking of lip-shaped things, the phone, absolutely iconic. It is. Also, want to mention Sasha's car. This car, girl, oh my goodness, I want this car so much. Modern cars are so ugly, just the most vile shit. How did we end up here and why are they all looking the same? But this one, yeah, now we're talking. I just love it so much. And the motorcycles are cool too. They're so massive, it's kind of funny. Oh, and another thing, Chloe's little reading nook in her room, which is basically just like a bunch of pillows stacked on top of each other with kind of canopy around it. I think that's about it. So what is Bratz up to now? They are releasing clips of pop culture moments, releasing old collections of the fashion dolls, since the doll collecting community is huge, full of working professionals that oftentimes work in the creative field, and credit a lot of their interest in art, fashion, and character design to Bratz. They seem to be plotting on doing something, to be honest. I don't know what. But now, as a fan of the fashion and vibe of these dolls, and seeing that they have grown up with the audience, I am excited. I am recreating 5 iconic looks from Bratz doll collections of your choosing in an upcoming video, so go vote if you haven't already. A behind the scenes video for the deep dive is also coming soon, and enjoy a few of the clips I loved but couldn't fit in the video out of context.
Hey, you gotta pay for that!
What? Oh, who do you think you are?
Bet she heard everything. What are we gonna do? Cry?
Ms. Lola, I'm afraid in this case justice is unjust.
I am the store manager, okay? You can't just have that!
Return it, please. Oh.
Shoplifting! Gia! Disgrace!
Jenny! Where'd you go? Oh my holy... No!
Gone bad at such an early age? Where's your mom? Wait till I tell her what you did.
Mom? Not in my vocabulary.
Oh, don't be cute with me, little man, or woman, whatever.
You were always Daddy's favorite.
So you had plastic surgery. We work together!
Oh, now, Dr. Ben. I know a good chiropractor we can kidnap.
Remain calm. I've got everything handled. How's this? Can you see me?
I cannot wait to eat your grub!
Counselor Crimpet is your friend.
Oh, great. We'll, hang out then.
I've totally got a list. I made it in order of bony to less bonier students. That way we can still bite when our teeth get tired. Oh, you always were the smarter one.
Yasmin, take him out!
Bunny Boo!
No, I mean literally, get them out of here!
He's a daddy. Play me some accordion music, Bernice. I feel misty.
I can't fail!
Sure you can, 'cause you did.
Way to go.
Ladies, you cannot bring those dogs in here.
Had to hit the runway for Jean-Paul when his models ate some bad mackerel.
Hello. My model just cancelled. Bring me the Bratz.
Did you know that the discovery of penicillin was a lucky accident?
Into the garbage can, Jade. And don't bring it back until it's fabulous.
Hey! Whatever happened to not judging other people without all the facts? Whatever... We'll continue this conversation later.
Oh, really? What about this?
What? A girl can't carry around a piece of rope?
I'm Portia! I don't do humiliation!
I do.
Well, hello there. I'm Liam. Don't worry, I have this effect on girls all the time.
Ooh, Buster Bling and the Chancellor of Rap. I hear they're quite fresh.
Yeah, that's right, Chloe. Remember who you are.
All right, Chloe!
You've got a magazine to run!
I'm the same Evan Moles, but now I'm on my own.
Whoa, that's deep. Smart girl.
How's my cool dude composure? Oh!
Guys, hang on to me!
This is an outrage.
Come on, let's try to figure out when and where Monique got poisoned. Big Daddy, it's Princess. Come get me.
So, tell me everything you know.
What kind of Colleen scale a 10-foot wall to scare the living daylight out of a poor little man like myself? That is what peace of mind I've left.
Do you think he has rabies? Oh, anything's possible.
She's hot.
Yeah, she is. Excuse me. Showtime for the master stud?
Ick, Dylan.
One of the many wonders of Morocco.
Check out the hottie. Who is that fine babe? Hey, pretty princess.
Are you talking to me?
Are there any other pretty princesses around?
No, it's...